longer repayment periods, all available in a phone call.
Citi Breakfast Show, the city's biggest conversation.
Meet Mr. Ansar. He prefers to receive money from his friends and loved ones through the Agricultural Development Bank's remittance services, and his reason is simple.
Oh, for me, my brother lives overseas and he often sends me money. I can access it at any ADB branch nationwide, and what he sends is exactly what I receive. No wahala.
Is that why you prefer ADB's remittance services?
Of course. Well, whether it is Western Union, MoneyGram, ZPay Instant Money, UnityLink, Real Money Transfer, or Transfast, receiving my money through ADB's remittance services is guaranteed. And with some of these services, you can receive the money directly into your ADB account. Do you know what the best part is?
Share with us.
You see, during this Ramadan, Easter and Eid al-Fitr, I'll be receiving money transfers. But I'm not worried because I can receive it at any ADB branch or selected branches on Saturdays and holidays. So my brother, you see, if you go somewhere else and you don't receive payment on time, all I can say is,
Visit any of ADB's 87 networked branches nationwide, whether you are a customer or not, for the best in remittance services. ADB, truly a Greek and more.
Join the conversation on the Citi Breakfast Show on Facebook at facebook.com/Citi97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973, and Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag CitiCBS.
I was living could stop serving rocks, knowing the cops is hot when I'm on the block, and I wish my brother would have made bail so I won't have to travel 6 hours to see him in jail, and I wish that my grandmother wasn't sick or that we would just come up on some stacks and hit a lick, and I wish my homies wouldn't have to suffer when the streets get the upper hand on us and we lose a brother, and I wish I could go deep in the zone and lift the spirits of the world with the words within the song. And I wish I could teach a soul to fly, take away the pain out your hands and help you hold them high. And I wish my homies would still alive and know the day of his death we had never took that ride. And I wish that God could protect us from the wrong so that all the soldiers that were sent overseas come home. And we will never break, though they devastate. We shall motivate and we gotta pray, all we gotta pay. Instead of thinking about who gon' die today, the Lord is gon' help you feel better so you ain't gotta cry today. Sit at the light so long and then we gotta move straight forward cause we fight so strong. So when right go wrong, just say a little prayer, get your money, man, life goes on.
I'm hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it, let it take you away. And be hopeful, hopeful, and he'll make a way. I know it ain't easy, but that's okay, cause we hope.
We're hopeful of a better tomorrow, so we put in the best work today. We're hopeful of a better future, so we make sure the present pays the price.
I wish that we can hold hands.
6:33 newspaper review next, brought to you by Total Energies Marketing Ghana, offering specially formulated quartz engine oil with ART, age resistance technology, a breakthrough innovation that ensures optimal performance for your engine, improves protection and against mechanical wear by up to 74%. Choose quartz. Choose the engine oil that keeps your engine running efficiently and effectively. Quartz keep your engine younger for longer.
Wish that DOC could scream again and bullets could reverse and Pac and Biggie breathe again. Then one day they could speak again. I wish that we only saw good news every time we look at CNN. I wish we could never get the blues. Wish I could bring back the people that died at E2. I wish that we could walk a path, stay doing the right thing, hustle hard so the kids maintain up in the game. Let's go.
Hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it, let it take you away. And be hopeful, hopeful, and he'll make a way. I know it ain't easy, but that's okay, cause we hope.
Wish the earth wasn't so apocalyptic. I try to spread my message to the world the best way that I can give it. We can make it, always be optimistic. If you don't listen, gotta live my life the best way that I can live it. I pray for justice when we go to court. Wish it was all good.
All right, so it's an interactive show, and so if there's something you want us to hear about, send us a WhatsApp message. That's the quickest way to reach us. 054-998-6996. The number again, 054-998-6996. We're also on many social media platforms, on Twitter, hashtag CitiCBS. With your comments, we'll be happy to read them at Citi973. My name is Bernard Avle. I'm here with Nathan Kwao and Godfred Akotobu for gentlemen, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hope you had a great Easter.
Yes, sir.
What was it right?
Restful Easter.
Very restful.
Eventful Easter.
Very,
Churchy Easter.
very restful.
Eatful Easter.
No.
I had all.
Just a lot of sleep.
But that's good. You need to refire your engine.
Yeah.
You know, so
For me, that was the most important part.
very, very important because it's almost like Q1 is officially over.
Yeah.
We are in Q2 for real. Yeah.
Today's April 11th.
Yeah, it's moving really fast.
Very crucial week, Bernard.
Yes, IMF issues.
Plenty.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
I heard our finance minister somewhere, and then I heard Kristalina Georgieva.
Yes.
Now,
Who is the
IMF boss?
Yeah.
She was literally begging
Yes.
on our behalf, publicly. Like, it was a meeting. You know the spring meetings are ongoing?
Yes.
She was like, I am
Give
pleading
Ghana the
you,
money.
Give these people. Not even just Ghana, the people who, all of the countries who own.
I'm told Burundi has even gotten some.
Charlie, give them. So the reason why I'm talking about this is, you see, once we get to the IMF approval, I'm talking to the political people. No?
Yeah.
Don't come and tell us about how you did some magic
And the money.
this
We don't want any kinky and wacky parties.
The IMF boss is on her knees begging on your behalf.
Asking the others to come on board
She's
and
begging.
make things happen.
I've
He
read
says,
quotes
like, we
attributed
need to help these countries. Otherwise, the suffering in their country is too much. Anyway, let me tell you about the IMF.
Let Nathan start with the new Crusading Guide and other papers.
Well, the new Crusading Guide also has a lot of political stories. NPP committed to free and fair elections will not, however, tolerate violence. So this is the aftermath of things that were said over the weekend. NPP defends Abetifi MP. Bernard Champon said nothing wrong. I see. Government projects Ghana Integrated Aluminium Company to anchor integrated aluminium industry. That's according to the lands minister. And lawyer Peli chases Betty for Afram Plains South seat.
Front page of the Daily Graphic, Oforiata is talking, Ken, that is, and he says Ghana on course for IMF approval. We'll see how that goes in the course of the week. It's something that we'll be keeping an eye on. Take stress management seriously. Clinical psychologist to employers. Say it again. And then Africa needs global synergies to improve health. Kwekwajiman Menu. Church leaders inspire nation. Resurrection. Hope to overcome life's challenges. And comes with photos of Reverend Sam Kranchi Ankra, Reverend Dr. Mensa Otabel, and Bishop Charles Ajen Asare.
Okay. The ABC News says, stop your needless attacks on Bernard Champon, MPP to NDC. Ekufado commissions Obo Kwewu Model Police Station. The ABC News has an editorial, Economic Crisis. The African continent is reeling from the effects of COVID and Russia-Ukraine war. And on page 7 of the ABC News, the one who branded NDC revolution is gone with it. John Mahama is toothless, Sam George told.
Front page of the Republic Press, they're talking about Bernard Champon's comments and then the commissioning of the Obo police station. And then this one, a story that made a lot of headlines for the weekend. We have created 2.1 million jobs than the NDC did. Baumia boasts. So that's front page of the Republic Press.
The Daybreak newspaper says NDC accuses Keche's wife of forgery. See, and the MPP is defending Bernard Champon. Ato Forson is also here. He says, I remain against betting proceeds taxing. And City FM, City TV donate 30K items to orphans at Easter.
Finally from me, Bernard, piracy in Gulf of Guinea. Ghana tops attacks. That's the front page of the paper. And then Treasury exceeds Q1 issuance target by 8 billion Ghana.
Yeah, so that's Treasury bill.
Yes, I'll try and break that down for you.
All right, the Economic Times says BOG locks up 3 billion cedis from banking sector. Ghana to get IMF board approval by May ending. That's according to Seth Tekbe. And economic activities shrink. That's all on the front page of the Economic Times.
Moving online, bettors oppose newly introduced 10% tax on bet wins. Also, Ghana's bilateral creditors set to clear way for $3 billion IMF bailout. And then phase 2 of a BJP Lamte interchange project halted ahead of IMF deal. And then Mahama resumes campaign, heads to Eastern region today. Now, a couple of politics. Brian Champon said nothing wrong. MPP defends Abetifi MP, while NDC lambasts him for the comment he made. So that's the big political story. Brian Champon all over. Now, in other stories, Citi FM donates to 3 orphanages, 20K, 30K, 10K, in a a swoop during the Easter festivities. So Tamale 10K, Basco 30K, Kumasi 20K. Now, myjoyonline.com, same story on business. Ghana's bilateral creditors set to clear way for IMF bailout, the spring meeting happening. Akufo-Addo should intervene in Brian Comment saga. This is IDEG.
Oh.
Meanwhile, the NDC is asking the police to act with dispatch on the comment. And then Peter Tobu says 1990 policing style cannot be used in 2023. And then the security analyst is also saying that police should moderate the behavior of MPP and NDC. Right? So lots of comments. Nyahocha Maklo also calls out by the champion for irresponsible comment. Now, City Business News is talking about the Betters tax and also the IMF deal. And then several African countries have a shortage of US dollars. It's a feature article on Forex. And then, in fact, internationally, there's a lot of stories also about the US dollar and whether its future as the global reserve currency is under threat. City Sports, Jordan Ayew dedicates brace against Leeds to his former boss, Patrick Vieira. Quite interesting. And then Mohamed Salisu is missing games because of doubts over commitment to Southampton. These are reports in the news. Now, the BBC's lead story is that a Kentucky bank employee has shot dead 5 of his colleagues. He opened fire on staff at a Louisville bank before dying in a shootout with police. 1 week, 1 shooting. US and Philippines hold biggest joint military drills. That's also a big story. And then the Financial Times is talking about poorest countries find finances under pressure from higher rates. It's an article they've done on the global economy. Now, there's a big story on Bloomberg Africa on Ghana. You remember the story about the tanker, Russian tanker? So the lead story this morning is that the tanker has unloaded Russian crude in Ghana after a 6-week wait. And the vessel is called Theseus.
Yes.
And it's offloaded at Tor Refinery over the weekend. The details are provided by Julian Lee and Ekodonto, who will give you some highlights of that. And then the East African is talking about Burundi receiving 261 million loan from IMF. So it's less than half a billion. We are getting 3 billion.
We hope to.
Oh, we will get it.
So we hope to.
Then a number of countries with dollar crisis. Congo, Zimbabwe last week. Kenya can't pay salaries. All kinds of things happening on the continent. So maybe let's start with our...
Yes, let me start with our IMF issues on page 16 of the daily graphic, and then you can also give further details. Ghana on course for IMF approval. The Pirate Club, a group of bilateral creditors that helps with workable solutions to payment problems faced by debtor nations, will form an official creditor committee this week to look into Ghana's request for financial assurances. The assurances, which come with debt restructuring and further strategic lending, will enable the country to present its program to the IMF board for approval. The Minister of Finance, Kenneth Furata, who disclosed this to the Daily Graphic in an interview, said the formation of the committee and the financial assurances were to enable the country's program to be laid before the IMF board shortly after the spring meetings. Quote, Mr. Furata, during the World Bank and IMF spring meetings, we will be meeting with the Paris Club and other bilateral creditors. They will also be meeting separately to consider Ghana's request. Now, interestingly, China has agreed to be present at these meetings, and that means Mr. Furata says he's very happy. Now, key revenue measures were approved by Parliament in Ghana on Friday, March 31, to position government to rake in an additional 4 billion Ghana cedis annually, which the finance minister said was quite significant to boost the country's fiscal position.
So the main story is that Ghana may secure the deal without Eurobond restructure in place. Ghana has not restructured about $13 billion of Eurobonds. We finished a domestic debt exchange, but based on the assurances that have been given, it is it's quite clear. I don't want to say it's obvious, but it's very likely that Ghana was going to get the deal announced probably before end of the month.
Well, Seth Thakbe, he's on the front page of the Economy Times, and he's giving gone further to even give a time. He says Ghana may get approval from the IMF by the end of May. Okay. Now he's reacting to a dire economic situation of the country, and he indicated that the month of May 2023 was practically feasible for Ghana to get a fund support program. Last week, Fitch Solutions also projected that Ghana's staff level agreements with the fund would receive an executive board approval in the second quarter of the year. So,
all right. So Bloomberg is talking about end of April. Setek is talking about end of May. Whichever the difference, definitely before June, the deal will be announced.
Give us the oil.
Yes. So this is an unrelated but quite interesting as well. So this story says that the tanker Theseus offloaded its cargo of Russian crude into storage tanks at Ghana's Tor over the weekend after being anchored full of the port since February 24 as it awaited permission to dock. Vessel tracking data monitored by Bloomberg showed that the ship left its initial anchorage Thursday morning, moored at a single point mooring on Friday afternoon. The SPM is connected to storage tanks at the refinery by a subsea pipeline. Now, the tanker left the SPM on Monday morning with its draft indicating it had discharged its cargo. It loaded about 600,000 barrels of crude from the Black Sea port of Novorossiysk in late January. Now, here are the details. Now, GMPC granted a delivery period for the cargo to be unloaded, but national security considerations held up the process. According to people familiar with the matter, when the tanker was en route, the head of MPA said the shipment would be blocked if it was bound for the country. Remember, MPA had said he didn't know anything about it. But clearance was given for the tanker after claims that the cargo was from Kazakhstan. A port agent report for the Russian port and data from intelligence from Vortexa and other institutions showed that it originated from Russia. Now, we are told that IES has identified Platon Gas Oil as the purchaser of the cargo, and the company operates a small refinery next to Tor. And then it leased storage tanks at Tor to get this oil brought in. So it looks like the mystery surrounding the shipment has been partly unraveled. So that's the economy. Let's come to Brian Champong.
Yeah, he's all over the news.
So let's start with the...
Well, Daily Graphic has a story that says NDC condemns Brian Champong's
let's start
comments.
with
And
that.
the Republic Press also says NDC backing dogs cowed as NPP backs Brian Champong. Let me just start from the graphic then. The NDC has condemned the statements that have been made by the Minister of Food and Agriculture, Brian Champong, to the effect that the NPP government will never hand over power to the NDC. Quote, as the political tradition that ushered in our nation's stable constitutional order, the NDC will do whatever it takes to resist the misrule and machination of the oppressor and thus protect and preserve our democracy. This is the quote from the NDC on Brian's comments. If you come to the Republic Press on page 3, their take is that the ill-conceived and wicked offensive deployed by the NDC when it has now resorted to attacking the personality of the Food and Agriculture Minister, Brian Champong, has been countered by leading members of the party. Then goes on to
so maybe one of
different persons.
Yeah, so let me give you the quote of this. There are many things he said, but the parts that really riled people. NDC party will collapse if the NDC dares to use threats, violence, and foolishness in the 2024 election. We'll let them know we have the men. We'll show them that we have the men. We have the men. He screamed to emphasize. It will never happen that we, the MPP, will stand on a platform to hand over power to the NDC. It will never happen. We'll make sure the MPP remains in government at all costs. Now, apart from the NDC's response, there have been a number of reactions to this. For example, Nyahota Maklo, founding member of the MPP, slammed the NP for Abetifi, Minister for Food and Agriculture, claiming that the party would hold on to power at all costs. Now, Mr. Nyaho Tamaklo, in a statement, said the comment by Mr. Champong can lead this nation to destruction beyond the extent that Akufo-Addo government has already caused. But the Champong's indiscipline and violent tendency has reached legendary levels, and it is about time the president and the MPP leadership called him to sanity. Failure to do this will further injure the party and lead it to total collapse. Then Dr. Emmanuel Akwete of IDEG, this is my job online, executive director of IDEG, has called on the president to intervene in the NPP never handing over power comment. Dr. Akwete believes clearing the air is necessary to prevent tension from escalating. But finally, I think the person to speak is the president on the matter, and his ability to dismiss it, not as his policy, is extremely important. So basically, the statement, I mean, if you listen to the statement in the way it is reported, it sounded very, very reckless. And there are many, many condemnations. But the MPP is seeking to say that he's been taken out of context, for which reason the headline you read. We'll deal with this later on during the show itself. But there are other stories that we want to bring to you this morning.
Okay, if you go to page 2 of the BNFT, Wisdom Johnny Noekbe is reporting that with Nigeria recording no piracy incidents in 2022, Ghana and Angola have risen to top of the list of countries reporting piracy incidents in the Gulf of Guinea. This is according to data from the International Maritime Bureau's Piracy Reporting Center. The data indicated that Takoradi Anchorage and Luanda Anchorage were both included in the IMB PRC's list of worldwide ports with 3 or more reported incidents of piracy in 2022. But overall, global piracy and armed robbery numbers have decreased in the past.
But you also
year.
said that T-bills have been oversubscribed.
Yes. Now, if you go to page 3 of the same paper, the Treasury exceeded its issuance target for Q1 2023 by approximately 8.2 billion Ghana cedis, issuing 36 billion Ghana cedis in total, thus front-loading its capital raising requirements on the money market due to limited investment options available to investors, resulting in higher demand for short-term securities.
Okay.
All right, if you go to the Economic Times, since we're talking about economic activity, they have a very interesting story that says economic activities shrink. Elom Desawu writes that story, and he says economic activities in the country for the first 2 months of 2023 shrunk by 7.6% compared to a growth rate of 4.2% in the same period of 2022. And all of that is according to the Bank of Ghana's Composite Index of Economic Activity. Wow. In the real sector, the bank's high-frequency indicators pointed to further moderation in economic activity in line with the challenging macroeconomic environment. The main indicators that weighed down the index during the period were port activity, cement sales, import, and credit to the private sector.
Yeah, so this one we've discussed before. The other one on the economy, which I just think I'll add, is that the government has introduced over 10 new taxes since 2021. Again, on my journal line, the government has introduced more than 10 new and amended taxes since assuming office in 2017. Notable among them is the e-levy introduced in 2022, and then which imposes a 1% levy on all electronic transactions. And then there are some other taxes listed here, in addition to the 3 new taxes. So that the COVID Health Recovery Levy 2021, Financial Sector Recovery Levy 2021, the Income Tax Amendment Act 2021, Energy Sector Amendment Act 2021, Growth and Sustainability Levy, which was amended and passed last week, Excise Duty Amendment last week, Income Tax Amendment last week. There's also the withholding tax on realization of assets and liabilities. And then there are changes in motor vehicle benefits for employees, and then VAT amendment and withholding tax on winnings from betting. So quite a number of taxes introduced from 2021 to date.
Well, let me take you to Kofodia, and on page 16 of the Daily Graphic, a clinical psychologist at the Eastern Regional Hospital, Akusia Sewa Bonsu, has urged employers to take stress management seriously to ensure the well-being of employees. Equally, she called for serious attention to be given to the mental health needs of young people, especially students. According to her, it was important for human resource officials and organizations to offer opportunities for talks with employees that guaranteed their privacy and confidentiality, and also inquire about their psychosocial stresses for prompt intervention. Let me just add 2 quick stories of people, and then you can also add the Citi FM Foundation, the work that we've been doing, because a lot of organizations are donating. So Rigweld, on the back page of the Daily Graphic, they are supporting the New Life Nungwa Children's Home. They have donated assorted items and textbooks worth 80,000 Ghana cedis. The last time we also did a story about a shortage of accommodation for health officers. Well, Mr. Kwame Ofosubanfu Sekins, he has handed over a bungalow to the Tiase Presby Hospital. He spent 800,000 Ghana cedis on that for health professionals to go and stay in at Tiase.
Very interesting. Now, in terms of donations...
well, the Daybreak captured what we did during the Easter. Now, they say Citi FM, Citi TV donate 30K items to orphans at Easter. So, of course, we went to Basco. So they captured that, and we went to other orphanages.
So the Basco one was in the Eastern region for 30K and other items. Then there's a Tamale Children's Home receiving 10,000 and assorted items from this team. And then there's the King Jesus Charity in Kumasi, also getting 20,000 cedis. This is Bwedi in Ashanti region. This is the second time they've received this amount. So in total, if you put the 3, that's 60K to 3 orphanages over the Easter period. And big thank you to our listeners and our viewers for their support in pushing this for the past 15 years.
Yes. Let me just give you some quick international stories. There's a lot happening around the world, and a lot of those things will impact us one way or the other.
A lot of international stories which
I think you have a lot more.
So, over the past week, there's a lot of write-ups about BRICS countries. For example, BRICS countries have overtaken G7 nations in global GDP. Right. So Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, GDP together has overtaken that of the richest 7 countries in the world, which is EU, US, Canada, Japan, and France and Britain. That's the first story. Then there's a lot of conversations about the US dollar as the reserve currency of the world, whether it's going to last. A lot of the analysts suggest that it's going to reign for a long time because, there isn't a real alternative. So US, a lot of FX transactions, about 70% of them are in dollar.
Yep.
Only 20% is EU. The RMB is only 7%.
Yeah.
But there's a strong view that the BRICS countries are also trying to create an alternative political and economic order. They have a new investment bank, which they hope to challenge the World Bank. And then there's an equivalent of the IMF that's also built with $100 billion. So, and a number of countries like Saudi Arabia and Co have shown intentions to invest in those banks. So the global geopolitical race continues. Brazil, Russia, India, China, trying to break the Western hegemony. And that also explains some of the visits of US high-power people to Africa and all of that. So
it will be interesting to see how that goes. But something happened last weekend that was pretty cool in sports. So we had the first National Under-20 Invitational Interco.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So this one, all the schools from across the country at one joint.
How many schools?
So this was select school. So Mfansipim School did really well.
Okay.
I'm shocked. Joseph Andor of the Mfansipim School, the Central Region, was the toast of fans. The Babaya posted. He won the boys 100 meters race. He ran 10.54 with Gabriel Fuli of Kumasi High School and Ransford Kofi Addison of Trinia Manfu in the Bono region, placing second. And then you also had Adams, who had Zad.
So this is athletics and also football?
No, just athletics.
Okay.
Now, Andor, the same Joseph Andor, he had earlier won gold in the keenly contested boys 400 meters.
Wow.
Yeah, and then if you went to the girls' race, Nasara Kwanza and Diamond Kusime, both students of Man Site in Fansiman, placed first and second. So it looks like quite a bit. I hope they're able to keep
and then
this
on
up.
sports, since you're on sports, City Sports, a couple of stories, one good, one not so good. Jordan, you scored a wonderful brace in Crystal Palace demolition of Leeds United. Dedicates that was his former boss, which I find interesting because his form under this new boss is better. But he dedicated that award to Patrick Vieira.
He has 32 Premier League goals now.
Yeah, and then we are told Mohamed Salissu's absence from Southampton is not because of injury, but because there are doubts over his commitment. There are some reports there. And then Liverpool blew the title race wide open with a 2-2 draw.
Today you are talking about Liverpool.
Oh, I'm just announcing.
Today they announced.
No, I seen it's on the website.
Keep announcing.
It's on the City Sports
Keep
website.
this spirit up, oh.
No. I'm just
Keep
announcing.
this announcement spirit up, oh.
No.
Oh, all I'm saying is keep this spirit up.
They said Liverpool blows title race open with a 2-2
We have
draw
heard you.
at Arsenal.
We have heard you. No problem. Not at Arsenal, please. It was at your house.
Against Arsenal.
This is the Citi Breakfast Show. The city's biggest conversation.
You know, Papa, see that? And it's rickety car. Hey, Papa! Papa! Bobo, so how your engine now? It is half man, half amazing. Thanks to cause and you can feel.
/Citi97.3. Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973. And Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag CityCBS.
We got another one.
It's a minute to 7. City Business News coming up next. Brought to you by Goil, your OMC of choice. We keep making life ever so convenient. We accept Momo for all fuel purchases. Remember, you can use Momo and all bank cards to buy fuel at Goil. Drive to your nearest Goil station now, buy fuel and pay by Momo, bank card or Go card. Goil, good energy. Go, yeah, dear. News is also brought to us by MTN everywhere you go. Ashika is joining us with the City Business News. Good morning, Na.
Good morning, Bernard. Hello and welcome to the City Breakfast edition of City Business News, proudly brought to you by MTN, Goyle, and powered by your most comprehensive business news website, citybusinessnews.com. Coming up, Ghana inches closer to IMF bailout as financial assurance from the Paris Club is expected to be laid before the IMF board. And also, Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana implores President Akufo-Addo not to accent the new tax bills into law. The details. The financial assurance from the Paris Club and China is expected to be laid before the International Monetary Fund IMF board after the ongoing spring meetings of the IMF and the World Bank. This follows assurances by the Paris Club of forming the official creditor committee this week to consider government's request for financial assurances. The Paris Club is expected to form an official creditor committee to consider government's request for financial assurances and provide financial assurances for Ghana to the International Monetary Fund. The committee, which will be formed this week, will take government a step closer in securing a board approval for the IMF bailout. Currently, a government delegation led by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is in Washington, D.C. to attend an IMF and World Bank spring meeting. Already, Ghana has received assurances from China for a debt restructuring, another important factor for the country as it seeks the $3 billion bailout. Moving on, the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana, Samson Asakia Wingobert, is calling on President Akufo-Addo to heed to calls by economist Kwame Mpinin and desist from signing the 3 revenue measures bills into law. The new tax laws were passed by Parliament in a bid to help government generate about 4 million Ghana cedis in revenue for the country. However, the economist Kwame Mpinin has joined forces resisting the implementation of the tax law, as he says it could spell doom for the businesses in Ghana. Reacting to the development, Samson Asakia Wingobert told City Business News it was the call in the right direction.
I agree with him perfectly. If you make random sampling, to ask some members of parliament that what, especially the majority side, that one law do they pass, what the 3 bills, do they understand it? What would be the effect on the economy? What would be the effect on the business community? Many of them will not be able to explain to it. But you have got to pass a bill that you've got. So if economist Kwame Mpinin is a senior most person, he's even an MPP member, says this, then clearly he's thinking about Ghana first, not political party first. And that is the kind of people that we need to be in the helms of affairs. Because they actually brought this policy to parliament without thinking through. They just rush it on the members of parliament and say, approve it. And many of them, if you ask them what would be the effect, positive or negative effect on the economy, they won't be able to tell you. All what they will tell you is government needs IMF, and they have to. This is one of the conditions that they have to meet for IMF to be able to give it a 3 billion credit. But the point is, the finance minister said some time ago that if by March they could not conclude, this country will crash. Has the country crashed?
That was Samson Asakia Wingobert, who is the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. Now, the Ministry of Finance is urging patrons of financial products and services to get acquainted with the various financial regulatory authorities in order to mitigate the instances of abuse of consumers. This, the ministry believes, will help consumers make informed financial decisions and seek help when needed. Speaking on the sidelines of the launch of the financial education campaign in Accra, the Deputy Minister of Finance, Abena Osei-Asare, urged patrons of financial products and services not to hesitate to escalate any dissatisfaction of their holding financial institutions to the respective regulators.
We bring the knowledge of financial information to everybody so that when anybody at all is making decisions on their financing, they'll be well informed. We also ask that we want to target the youth, the young people in society, because we believe that we should catch them young and introduce these things to them to make sure that they are also well informed when they are making financial decisions. At this launch, we also made it known to everybody that every financial decision you make and the regulatory body. And so if it has to do with savings at the bank or anything, the regulatory body is the Bank of Ghana. We mentioned that if it has to do with your pensions, the regulatory body is the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. We also mentioned that if it has to do with insurance, it's the National Insurance Commission and the others. We want people to know their regulatory bodies so that if anything happens, once they speak to their financial company or the bank or wherever they went to save their money and their concerns are not addressed in the way they feel they should be addressed, after 30 days, they can go to the regulatory bodies and also raise their concerns there. We want to make it such that people feel safe, one, to make informed decisions and also to put their monies where they feel that they will get the best benefits.
You heard a Deputy Minister of Finance, Abena Osei-Asari. Now, the Ghana Hotels Association has revealed that its members across the country recorded a major boost in patronage during the Easter celebrations. This period is typically marked by visits to local tourist attractions and to travel destinations such as the Kwewu Enclave. Speaking to Citi Business News, the president of the association, Dr. Edward Akanyamike, called for more efforts to increase domestic tourism patronage in the country.
The feedback we are receiving, and of course, it's just like any other year apart from the Corona year when it was very clear that we didn't have the numbers there. But it's been like that over the years. Festive seasons, festive periods, we have a lot of the hotels receiving high patronage because of the festivities. I mean, people love to go back home, and it's not everybody who has that family accommodation back home. And sometimes they also go with visitors. The people also want to explore domestic tourism, explore new areas, travel outside their comfort zone to other places. So yes, I mean, a typical example is the Kwewu, the paragliding and all those activities that goes on there. So yes, the season is good for hotels. The only thing is that it's a short season to be over soon, and then we'll have to return back to normal where we continue to strive for patronage. So it's been good.
President of the Ghana Hotels Association, Dr. Edward Akanyamike. Now, on the interbank foreign exchange market where banks trade among themselves, the dollar remained unchanged and is selling at 10 cedis 9 pesos. The British pound is selling at 13 cedis 6 pesos. It recorded no price change. The euro is also selling at 12 cedis. It also recorded no price change. However, be guided by these figures that it will be higher at a forex bureau near you. Now let's join Gillian Hammer of Databank for part 1 of the topic, 10 tips for teaching your child about money.
Teaching your child about money and how to manage it is one of the best gifts you can give to him or her. There are 10 tips you can consider, and today we will cover the first 4. Number 1, appeal to different learning styles. Some children learn better by hearing, some by seeing, some by touch, or a mix of one or more. So look for activities that best suit your child's learning style. Number 2, consider their age in your approach. Your child's ability to grasp certain financial concepts will depend partly on their age, so make sure your conversation and examples are age appropriate. Number 3, find and use key teaching opportunities. Share information when it's possible or easiest. For example, when eating out, you could use the restaurant menu to start a conversation with your child about comparing prices. If you have a teenager, you could use topics in the news like the increase of living expenses as a path to talking about how to distinguish between spending on needs and wants. Number 4 is speak in familiar terms. Keep your lessons simple and work with your child to explain the big terms and abbreviations of the money world.
That was Gillian Hammer of Databank. And that's it for the breakfast edition of Citi Business News, proudly brought to you by MTN, GOIL, and powered by your most comprehensive business news website, citibusinessnews.com. My name is Nashika Caesar. Have a great day.
Join the conversation on the Citi Breakfast Show on Facebook at facebook.com/Citi97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973, and Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag CitiCBS.
This is the Citi Breakfast Show, the city's biggest conversation. The Citi Breakfast Show. Rise above the noise.
Oh, no, 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 King promise, yeah.
King Beats, let's go.
Oh, no, 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 yeah. Me say, I do me, sure me, You know, we say I be better past anybody. They say, wish you out. And your boy, no. See, so what they hustle, know they make chance pass me by. So make you do your best and use your sense. I show the stress since I put God first. Charlie, it no be race, it no be test. And Jack guy to no one contest. So make you tell them. So we do come, no they fear them. Baba God did for my side, so no shake it.
Yeah, when you're media, on Tom Kona, on do. On any CCTV, Davy, and anyone me so. Even if I walk through the valley of death.
10 minutes past 7, 97.3 City FM. So we went for Easter break to celebrate Easter. You know, to help people, to show love to the poor, only to wake up to some comment by some politician. Charlie Ghana, when you want to make progress, then some things are just pulling us back. You want to come and talk about development, then look at what Bernard Avle has going to do. Oh Lord.
I pity make you no cry, you still try.
Charlie.
You make you no cry. You might draw money near me.
Oh no. Very, very disappointing. We'll deal with that issue soon on the show today. But let's keep our eye on the ball. The economy. Brilliant lecture on Thursday. Yao Graham delivered a lecture on the need for transformation in Ghana's economy. A lecture I think a lot more people should be hearing. Now, the tragedy of Ghana is, so like a speech like Yao Graham's speech that, of course, City TV had live, may not get as much mileage as the Bernard Avle statement. Obviously, what Bernard Avle said is irresponsible and has to be roundly condemned. But it's funny how the things that we really need to deliberate on, for some reason, politicians always conspire that we don't discuss them. You know, we don't talk about the things that matter that often. So we spend time, up and down. Spend 3 days on this matter. And then we come back to equilibrium. Then the issues of transformation, how we even got into this economic mess and all of the things we need to do to get out will be lost on the citizens. And they'll keep repeating the same mistakes. And every election cycle, politicians just set the whole nation on edge. You know, these things have to stop. And these things have to be roundly condemned. You know, so what I'll do is that in the last hour of the show, I'll bring you highlights of Dr. Yao Graham's lecture, because I think that some of the things he said are very important for us. Our focus on cocoa alone to the detriment of other food crops is a big issue. Our focus on just gold as against other things that can be mined is also important. So all of those things I will highlight today on the show. In addition to also telling our politicians, please, this is not what we need now, Mr. Champon. If you are excited talking to your supporters, know that you are. This is 2023 Ghana, and such statements will not be tolerated. We'll deal with that on the show as well. Plus Ghana's likelihood of securing an IMF deal before the end of May. But kickoff is next. It's brought to us by Lesheho. Did you know that for over a decade, we've been supporting the investment goals of our customers with attractive solutions? We've always been a safe haven for depositors who have security or who value security as well as competitive returns. With easy access to track your funds, we offer flexible deposit products for 91-day, 182-day, and 365 days. Open a fixed deposit account with us. Call 0577 707 700 and let's achieve your goals together. Let's share savings and loans, a trusted safe haven for your investment. And by now, you should have known the triple benefit of having Shell Fuel Safe. It's extra kilometers, extra savings, extra protection, extra clean from our fuel safe. The triple action formula improves your engine's efficiency and prevents deposit buildup and protects your engine for wear and corrosion. Switch now to Shell Fuel Safe today because extra kilometers go a long way. Benjamin Ketas in the studio. Office next. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Bernard. Let's get into the headlines. And Ghana's Black Queens, they are up in action today against Senegal in a friendly match. Now, the quarterfinal of the Champions League kicks off today. Manchester City take on Bayern Munich in a big one, and Leicester City appoints Dean Smith as caretaker coach until the end of the season. Let's get to the details now. Minister of Youth and Sports Mustafa Yusuf is calling on Ghanaians to support Chris Hughton following a good start to his tenure as Black Stars head coach. Now, Hughton bagged 4 points against Angola in back-to-back games for the 2023 AFCON qualifiers as Black Stars of Ghana are scheduled to play in Cote d'Ivoire if they manage to qualify from that particular group. Now, his immediate task is to get Ghana to that particular tournament. Now, speaking to City Sports, Yusuf, he outlined a number of objectives set for the 64-year-old during his tenure as head coach of the national team.
I would say it is too early to judge him. The only thing I would say is for us to, as a country, support our national team coach, Chris Hughton, to deliver. He's committed to his job, he's dedicated, he has the experience, and we can all see that he has just started on a very good note. So let's all rally behind him and give him the maximum support to coach our national team, and so that we can achieve the objective that we have set for ourselves as a country. That is what I can say on the national team coach, Chris Hughton. The objectives are set by the FA for him to ensure that we qualify for AFCON, also to ensure that he identified local talents from our league, to also ensure that we qualify for World Cup, and also to make sure that our ranking in the FIFA ranking improve. These are the objectives in the contract that he has signed. And that's why I'm saying that it is too early to judge him. Just for 2 games, you are judging a coach will not be fair. Let's rally or give him all the support that is needed so that he can deliver.
Mustafa Yusuf is Minister of Youth and Sports. Let's get to some other news. And General Secretary for the Ghana Football Association, Prosper Harris-Nado, says the international friendlies against the Teranga Lionesses of Senegal will help shape up the Black Queens ahead of upcoming competitive assignments. Now, Nora Hoptel's side, they thrashed Senegal by 3-0 at the Accra Sports Stadium over the weekend, and they will host the same side later today in the second leg. Let's get to Nora Hoptel for her thoughts, or let's get to Prosper Harris-Nado rather, on his thoughts on the friendlies.
The senior women's national teams have been utilizing the FIFA windows. So this current window, we engaged Algeria and they were ready to come. Unfortunately, at the last hour, they wrote to us that circumstances beyond their control will not allow them to come. Immediately, we triggered another negotiations with a number of countries. We are able to get Senegal, and then we'll progress and see to it that the team will be in shape when the competitive matches come.
So you had GFA General Secretary Prosper Harris-Nado speaking there. Meanwhile, Black Queens head coach Nora Hoptel says her objective is to build a formidable team to compete for the WAFU Cup of Nations and the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco.
This is our job, to solve all these challenges. Of course, we have a lot of talks and the support of our leaders. So we need to qualify for Olympics, for WAFCON. This is our goal. We announced the mission Volta and want to bring turn and success towards women's soccer. But when we want to achieve these goals, it also has the consequence that we need to bring the best players in. So, of course, sometimes it's a big budget, so we are also very happy when the sports minister is supporting us. in the end, it's always a bit the question: is first the egg or is the chicken? You know, does first needs to come the money or first the results? So we try to play successful, but we need also the support.
So you have Black Queens head coach Nora Hoptel speaking there. Do go to the Accra Sports Stadium to support the Black Queens in that particular game. Let's get to Europe. The UEFA Champions League returns tonight. The quarter-final stage, big games coming up. Now, Portugal's Benfica Football Club, they will be seeking to make it to the semi-finals of this year's competition when they take on Inter Milan from Italy. That game should be a good one, but the big one is at the Etihad when Manchester City host Bayern Munich ahead of that particular one. It's at 7 p.m. and Pep Guardiola's side, they are chasing a maiden Champions League title after losing the 2021 final to a Chelsea side managed by Thomas Tuchel. Here's Pep's reaction when asked if Man City want to win the Champions League this season.
The failure won this competition, yeah, definitely. We want to try. It's an honor to be here against the elite club like Bayern Munich, and yeah, we're happy to be here. Happy to be. Only I can say so. It's not for granted. You have to deserve it. You have to play good 2 games and try to do the first, and that's all.
But you know that question is coming at you all the time.
I came from 6-7 years ago when I arrived here. When I was appointed, when I was playing against the Stoke Cities and I won in the Premier League the first game. So you are here to win the Champions League. It's come every single season. I understand that. So I had said many times. We tried last season. We tried 2 seasons ago. We tried 3 seasons ago. Every single season. But there are teams that you face that also they are good too, and they want to win it too. And my ambitions, I don't know the ambitions in their own lives, and every one of you, the people around the world, ambitions to be perfect.
Pep Guardiola is Manchester City head coach. Let's also hear from Manchester City defender Ruben Dias speaking on the team's quality.
Well, we have some names as well. We've got Kyle Walker, we've got Emmanuel, we've got me, we've got Nathan, we've got John Stones, we've got Aime, and we've got Sergi. So we've also got our names.
So that's interesting because a criticism of the defence is that Walker apart, there isn't a lot of pace, but you would back your pace against those players. A criticism of the City defence is that apart from Kyle, there's a lack of pace there, but you would back your defence against the pace of Bayern.
We'll see.
Why?
Sorry?
Why will we see?
Well, you'll see on the pitch.
So you heard Ruben Dias there, Manchester City defender. Let's get to the camp of Bayern Munich, and Thomas Muller has also been speaking on facing his former manager, Pep Guardiola.
I did not have the feeling that the opponent teams were very happy to play against Pep teams. Okay, you can be successful for sure, you can beat everybody, and City has also very good players, but the style of the Pep teams means a lot of running for the opponent's team. Yesterday I trained very hard with our fitness guru, Holger Broich, so maybe I'm good prepared for running, but I think there are teams maybe it makes more fun to play against. But as you mentioned before, in these kind of games this season we were very sharp, we were very good in the performance, we were very good in the results. We are confident, but we all know, and we played City in the pre-season. We all know when City is on a run, it also means that you have to suffer during the game, maybe more than 5 minutes.
So the stage is set for the big one, Manchester City, Bayern Munich. That should be spicy. Let's get to some boxing to close out the news. And Ghanaian boxer Sena Agbeko has admitted that he is surprised that his WBA super middleweight fight against David Morrell has been slated as an undercard bout. Now Agbeko will be fighting on the same night as Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia on the 22nd of April at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The 31-year-old, who has 27 wins and 2 losses in his career, takes on the 25-year-old southpaw David Morrell from Cuba with a chance to win his first world title. Speaking in an interview with City Sports ahead of the fight, he added that training camp is going well in the lead-up to the bout.
Camp ahead of this fight is going really, really well. I've added some reinforcements to my coaching staff to make sure that we have a world-class preparation. In addition to that, I've been doing some mental training as well, just to help me deal with the pressure of this fight. So I'm definitely very happy with our preparation and very confident that on April 22nd, we will be victorious. I am not at all surprised that, about this fight. I don't think it was put together that fast. There had been talks of the fight earlier on this year. It's just nothing concrete. If there's anything I'm more surprised about, it's about the fact that it was put on the Ryan Garcia Gervonta Davis card. That's the only surprise. But actually, his coach, Moral's coach, had kind of hinted that it was going to be on a prior card, and that didn't happen. So, it's no surprise at all that this fight was put together.
So you heard Ghanaian boxer Sena Agbeko speaking there now on the breaking news side of things. Leicester City, they have appointed a caretaker manager in Dean Smith until the end of the season. Now, the former Norwich City, Aston Villa, and Brentford manager will take charge of first team training from Tuesday in preparation for this weekend's trip to Manchester City. So that's what's happening with Leicester. Brendan Rodgers out, Dean Smith in. That's all for this morning's edition of Kickoff. My name is Benjamin Nketia, the small sport at citysportsonline.com.
Extra, let me tell you all about it.
Hey, Dolomistic. You and this your extra thing. Abeg, tell me about it.
Abenquine, look, extra is what you and your car get when you switch to Shell Fuel Save. Extra protection, extra clean, and extra savings. You get it?
And no, I mean, tell me extra.
Shell Fuel Save is designed to improve engine efficiency instantly and with triple action formula that helps protect your engine from wear, corrosion, and deposit. So you get extra kilometers out of your drive.
Sir, and you're not extra, good for your engine. Extra, good for your pocket.
Extra kilometers goes a long way. Switch to Shell Fuel Save today. Go well.
Let's go. If you need unique services, come to Let's Go. Innovative financial solutions, we deliver on our promise, cause we are number one. Let's Go, we improve your life. Let's go. Let's go. Hey, mama. Even when you're stuck with nothing, come to Let's Go. No matter your situation, come to Let's Go. Let's Go, we improve your life. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
up to you, Nana Yaudebra of Oduma Solutions. Also wishing the General Manager of Serious Systems Ghana Limited, PSB, Mrs. Lola Asise Ashite, a happy birthday. Mrs. Ashite, GM Extraordinaire, mother like no other, kingdom woman, marketing and communications guru. We celebrate you today. May the blessings of God abound over your life and your family. Have a great and happy birthday from the PSB unit and the entire SSGL family. And to Selom Koku Dugbenya from your family, Dad Martin Dugbenya, Mom Caroline Dugbenya, and your sister Sedinam Dugbenya. Happy 11th birthday. And happy birthday to the living legend, the grandpapa, the father of hip life, Reggie Rockstone. This one came in from Ronnie, and I'm sure all rappers, all musicians,
those of us who love the culture.
You know, I saw a video of Reggie Rockstone last
Reginald or say
3 weeks ago. At Timota 98 did their there's whatever something they were doing, and then they went to the school, the dining hall, Charlie. So they were doing some music thing, and the DJ was jamming, and then out of nowhere, Reggie Rockstone just emerged, and like the dining hall went absolutely crazy. And I was like, this is SS1 to SS3 people in 2023. Right? When Reggie Rockstone was in Motown, most of these people's parents had not even gotten married. Not talking of him getting born. Charlie. So the DJ was playing some jam, and then they were like dancing and things. Then Reggie Rockstone, like, he played some beat, then he like the way he glided. Charlie, Nathan.
Reggie's.
Charlie. And the people were screaming and they mobbed him. And I said, but how do these 17, 16, 15-year-olds
know who Reggie is?
And
he's a legend.
Relate with him so.
He's a Motown legend.
The guy could. It was like they were mobbing the guy and they were singing all his lines. I was like, Charlie.
Reginald to say.
Reggie is older than Samenzo. No. Let's put the thing in context. I mean, I think when Samenzo were in Form 1, he was in Form 5 or something. The guy grew.
Yeah, he grew.
You know, Charlie. No, Reggie Rockstone.
Reggie.
No. Reggie Rockstone, Charlie.
Yeah, Rockstone.
Hey. No. I mean, Charlie, how many musicians of his age can enter a secondary school
and still
and close?
Yes, it's true.
It was like entertainment night. Like he basically closed the program. Charlie, he learned, the game mic where they do that.
Yeah. Charlie, Reginald.
No.
Legendary.
Reggie Rockstone.
One time Ghana Taekwondo champion.
Also, Ghana's, I think he was number 2 dancer, best dancer, Ajite, so I'm not sure. Apparently, I think they say he was the Dada B-boys and Ajite, so was the hostless. I think Jimmy Lee was dancing with Reggie or something. I don't even know.
So Charlie,
he was the main. I don't know who in Ghana today can compare to Reggie when he was Reggie.
He was unique.
You know what I'm saying? Like maybe like who in Ghana is known, is loved, is pechepe, is the main thing, Oh God.
Charlie.
And he's maintained his form.
Yeah.
I don't even know what food he eats, man. Charlie's serious. I
don't
know how old he is.
He's very interesting because I always say that you can't write Ghana's music story or Ghana's hip hop story and not add Reggie Rockstone because he made it cool to rap in your local language.
I'm telling you.
Was
it? I mean, the way he says "mina,"
and had all these very interesting album titles, Maka, Mina Meka, Mecca, and all these. Reggie, Charlie, happy birthday to you.
For several reasons, I must play Maka.
Yes, we'll play it.
It's such an up-tempo song.
Yeah, we'll play soon. And happy birthday to Dr. Kobe Mensah.
Professor.
And I'm coming. I'm reading a full message. On his elevation as an associate professor of the UGBS. And this is from the UGBS Relationship Marketing class of 2023. So, Kobe Mensah, you are now ASO Prof. Charlie, I think you can now let the beard go. Charlie,
you will let it go. You will let it go.
It's okay.
Last time I saw it, Charlie, he had, gray in there.
Sorry in the beard.
Yeah, he says he's working hard at it.
Kobe Mensah. I like Kobe because he straddled the public's face and also his work very nicely. There are a lot of good academics who don't really care much for the media or care much to even comment apart from their publishing. So to be able to combine an active media presence with publishing enough to become ASO-Prof at this young age is really good. So Kobe, Charlie,
he's a modern academic. If you look at how he engages the students, a lot of the students who go through his class always rate him as their favorite lecturer, sort of thing. He's and
the business school is doing something good. The business school is recruiting some very good lecturers, who are young and more. They are different in their teaching style. So each time you go there, you realize that the younger lecturers are more engaging and they are being encouraged to experiment more.
Exactly, which is what we need.
So I think what's his name?
Abojuse.
Enjoy the day. A few more coming in.
Do one.
Okay.
Yes, a special one that is coming through.
Yeah,
this one is happy birthday to Jesse Ayeyi Apia of Harvest International School. This is from your mom and your dad.
Before I get into politics, just needed to say a couple of things about the weekend. So I think the Harvest Praise was the best I've seen.
Don Moen was there?
Ages. It was live on TV and I couldn't stop watching it.
The production quality was really good.
From the Harvest people, their introduction to the theater, to the sermon, then to Harvest first and second package, to their costume, to the MC, to the launch of the Harvest. They have what do you call it? What is it like? They have this music productions, right? The record label. They launched it. Diana Hobson and Co. Then to Don Moen, absolute professional performance. Playing, this thing I like about professionals. He didn't come and play, I have a new song I want to
No. He played what you know.
He came and he performed. He and another keyboardist. Beautiful performance. And then Moses Bliss as well. I think it's been the best. Most Harvest Praise, I'm either there or emceeing. This is the first one I've sat at home and watched on television. And I'll tell you, it's been the most enjoyable. Everybody in my house was watching it. It was beautiful. So, congratulations to the Harvest Ministries, Harvest Gospel Choir, the committee, fantastic job. World-class production, I should say.
And Ronkinoli was low-key hiding there.
Ronkinoli, what amazed me about him, he's sort of trimmed.
Yes.
He looked like your regular Ghanaian senior citizen, wearing some tie and dye shirt, and he says he wants to move to Ghana, and he says it's called Ronkweku Kenoli, and I really wish he would have done some cameo, like just come and do one song, but he didn't. It was really good seeing Ron Kenoli at Harvest Praise. So great stuff by the team. And if you're a young musician, look, if Reggie Rockstone gives a talk, go and listen. If he writes a book, buy it.
He's 59 today, I'm told.
What? Can you imagine?
What? Reggie.
Yeah. Charlie. Papa, grandpapa.
Yeah.
Charlie.
Grandpapa.
You're not here. I was talking to him about what he did. If you go to, I finished secondary school in 98. So when I go to Presec and I talk to the students, I'm old. It's 98. Because Jude, my producer, finished Akraka in 2014 or something, which is almost 10 years ago.
And yet, Reggie straddles popularity between those generations.
The guy goes to Achimota School last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Motown at 98. And the assembly hall the dining hall is how?
He's a proper
pandemonium.
How do they
icon?
How do they even know his songs? And how do they record? And how are they even jumping to his beat?
But he's a proper icon.
He is an icon.
No, it's crazy.
That level of relevance just tells you that he did well.
So you say he's an icon as against a superstar.
Yes.
So if
he's an icon.
If you are ranking, so Madonna is an icon.
Yes, she's gone beyond.
Michael Jackson is an icon.
Yeah.
Bob Marley is an icon.
Yeah, they've gone beyond those levels.
So Jay-Z is not an icon. He's a megastar.
Jay-Z is
on his way to becoming an icon.
Yeah.
So if Reggie Jackson is an icon, just educate me. So if
within our context,
if Reggie Jackson is an icon in Ghana, no problem. So what to Kojo Entry be?
Same.
Also an icon.
Yes. Daddy Lumba, same.
Okay, so what's the next level after Icon?
You see, because
before Icon,
Sarkodie at this moment is somebody I would consider a superstar.
Okay.
Yeah,
so he's one step before.
Yeah, he's working his way to iconhood. Stone Boy superstar. You understand?
Okay,
but
I get it. So Icon is like, even though he stopped producing new music,
Kojo hasn't done anything for God knows how long. If Kojo says he's playing Independence Square today,
he will feel it.
It will be felt. He might not even need to do promo. In fact, the man stopped doing promo of his shows a long time ago.
So Reggie is an icon.
Yeah, Reggie, you know, also because, and he's worked hard at staying relevant. If you look at what he did with the VVIP thing, he's very visible on social. He talks about
a lot.
Yeah, he talks about contemporary issues.
Yeah.
You know, he talks politics, he talks religion, he talks entertainment.
Yeah.
He's very accessible to a lot of people. He shares insights into his life. So although this generation might not have seen his work, they still see this Reggie person and it takes them back to his work.
What I wonder about is how this guy who has a bit of, how even like Chi Lafabi, like
the man was in the US.
Yeah, like
was with PLC.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the way he
took the accent personal.
Yeah, but you know, he has this Lafabi, but he also is very true to the tree.
Oh yeah, when he speaks Chi, you feel
it's very. I mean, look. The guy
is pure.
Yeah, you know, and which also testimony to probably how he was brought up.
Yes.
Because if he can, he could say he's modernized without getting westernized, right? He's very proud to speak his tree, speaks very well. But if he has to speak English, he speaks very well as well. He's kept his rasta the way he keeps his body very well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he drinks.
I don't know.
But
like I said, he was Taekwondo champion.
Yeah, so he keeps his body in shape.
Yeah.
Right, and he's managed to keep himself relevant throughout the ages.
Yes. You see, the thing
which few people are able to do.
You see, I always tell you this thing about why I rate some people more than others when we have this football conversation.
Yeah.
It's always for me about transcendence. Okay. Now, have there been better rappers than Reggie? Yes.
Of course.
Okay.
In terms of pure ability.
Pure ability.
Pure ability. Yes. Have there been rappers who have sold more than Reggie? Yes. Have there been rappers with bigger songs than Reggie? Yes. But the thing is this. The defining moment will always be associated with what he came to do.
I see.
And that is what gives him his space.
So that time is also important.
Yes, both behind the mic and also for his videos. Some of them, if you look at the kind of Reggie introduced, you know, if you watch Reggie Rockstone's videos at the time and what was available at the time, you could see that the plot lines were a bit more sophisticated than what was available, a bit more sinking, you know, and his collaboration with his video directors were pretty key to that. So in a lot of ways, he's done his bit for the game.
Wow.
Happy birthday again.
Special shout to the grandpapa.
Yeah. Now purveyor of Wachi. Gourmet Wachi.
Gourmet Wachi.
In the bottle.
Wachi in jars and bottles.
Wachi in the kunku.
You know, many to me. I am a 7 so yesterday, and I'm a swing and I catch a crash. Which me who say I was Santini average. If it is still collaborating, now who and I was shit, and kind of worry. Now, when you know, I worry. Me don't, yeah, Calabuna, come there, and they see Kelly, what a dole. No, I sound, you could have pretend Kata, you bet me to see him on him, and I'll put the idea. But why am I here? What did I was on to break? Who didn't I go by share? Why am I Messiah, my side? Oh, Mama, Papa, and I'm in happiness about a day, or be shower now. Who could it be? But I lose in tight. Baboski coming back on it to the minion and say, I go. Amen. Me say, I go. Amen.
So it's 11 minutes to 8. Before we get into our big stories for the day, get ready to elevate your driving experience with the vehicle from Toyota Ghana. For a limited time only, Toyota is offering a super bundle offer on the 1.4 liter Starlet, the 1.8 liter Corolla Cross Adventure, and the 1.5 liter Rush. And basically buy any of these vehicles within the promo period and enjoy a 1-year free comprehensive insurance, a 1-year free home insurance, a 1-year free service, free starter fuel, and an irresistible price discount. Call us on 0302 910-204. This is our showrooms in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Tamale, Takwa, or Takrady. Credit purchase is also available through special arrangements with our finance partners. Toyota's superior quality. And another quick one to Francis Forijuma, director of Airport View Hotel. Happy birthday. Thank you for being such an amazing boss. Month on month, you put food on our table. From Emily Catherine Befu to Francis Forijuma.
But earlier you read a birthday wish for the associate professor.
Yes.
Kobe Mensah.
Professor
Kobe Mensah. Well, it looks like his class is the marketing strategy. So his students have also sent in a wish. 2022-2023 marketing strategy class of the UG Business School.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah, they love him to bits.
Maybe I should call him to help me analyze what I'm just about to play. He's into communications and a bit of politics. Because a very nice weekend was nearly marred by, I don't know what word to use, but let's play it and then we can look for the word to use. The word that came to mind may not be charitable, but here is a minister of Agric speaking at the Eastern region. Where is this? Not too far from his hometown, actually. Abetifi. Okay, so this is a rally they held, and he was addressing MPP supporters.
Ukraine, Russia, war, COVID. Am I into I call from opposition, who is Argentino. I'm a day a day, I call through. And saying, let's say, possible to know. A Biden, Shishaya, dollar every 17, about 10. Petrol every 17, about 9. And never in air come from economy. It is possible. It is possible. It is possible. And I my dream say, time will not near my work from no. Sad time no near better. I may share for my ball. Share region ball. Every June, July this year. I am a 4 about the soya singing. Yeah, tutu ye akoye am economy na peja. Yeah, tutu ye akoye am dollar na peja. Yeah, tutu ye akoye am efumu yami. Yeah, tutu ye akoye am abenwe channel na so. NDC ebegu. Na say what do you my dream say? What did the huna patapa? Every person say about the year 2024 now. The veterans say we have the band. The veterans say we have the band. We have the band. Say about MPP party, I about band we. See about the platform so me and the power. I'm a NDC. Esida. A quite PI about 2024 election. No MPP bachelor band no.
This is a minister of agriculture, former minister of state for national security, speaking at Impraeso. I'm not sure if I even need to translate this because I think it's very clear for people to hear, right? I mean, so it says NDC as a party will collapse. This is portions of what he said, that IMF deal will come, etc., etc., etc. The economy has not done well, and therefore the NDC or the opposition have been emboldened to say they would win, but that the NDC as a party will collapse if the NDC dares to use threats, violence, and foolishness in the 2024 elections. We'll let them know that we have the men. We will show them that we have the men. We have the men. He's screaming on top of his voice. It will never happen that we, the MPP, will stand on a platform to hand over power to the NDC. It will never happen. We will use every means possible to remain in government at all costs. I mean, if this is not, I can't believe this. 2023, you'd have thought actually 30 years of democratic Fourth Republic, we are learning how to manage transitions, how not to, this is inciting people. This is, I mean, I don't even understand. Maybe your explanation last Friday or Thursday is what will probably explain it, that they speak to their supporters. But even speaking to supporters, this is completely unacceptable. Should be roundly condemned, and he should take it back. The fact that the MPP is even defending this is even more shocking. Right? Understand? Like, how do you go on a platform and say that there's no way you're going to hand over power to the NDC? Well, if somebody had to hand over the power to you, would you be in government? Yeah, why wouldn't you hand over power if you lose? If you lose, you hand over power. That's what you do. And when you say you use every means to remain in power, what do you mean by that? He should be questioned. He should be speaking. He should be giving some serious answers to the police. What do you mean by use every means? Because they are legitimate means of staying in power. You don't. In 2023, when we are chopping Easter, celebrating, thinking about Jesus and things, look how you are doing. I don't know. And you know what is sad about this is not even the statement. The fact that the party will come and support it. Like MPP says, look, there's no way. I would have said, if I'm the general, said, look, this is not MPP. Maybe he was feeling excited and he said what he said, and therefore, you get me. But for the party to now come and say that somebody's twisting it, I mean, okay, let me play it again. If somebody's twisting, I mean, what else do you need to hear to say that this is irresponsible? Do you understand? So like, and like some people are saying, this is NDC people are trying to twist this propaganda. Play it again and see if this is it. If you are driving to school with your children, is this the kind of thing you want your minister of agriculture to be saying in the morning when you are going to school, listening to it, knowing that this is going to get a lot of coverage? Is this the kind of thing that your minister of any level should be saying in public, in a democracy?
The party are buying to rent them kakaba 2 year kwaimu. Ukraine, Russia, war, COVID. Am I into 2 year day? I call from. Am I opposition? Who is Argentino? Am I 1 day a day? I call through. I'm saying, the son say, yeah, possible to know. A Biden Shishaye Bukwemu, dollar every 17, about 10. Petrol every 17, about 9. And never in there confirm economy. It is possible. It is possible. It is possible. And I my dream say, time will not near my work from no. Sad time no near better. I mean, check on my ball. Chasing region ball. Every June, July this year. I am a 4 about the soya singing. Yeah, 2 years I call you economy nepeja. Yeah, 2 years I call you $1 nepeja. Yeah, 2 years I call you a fumu. Yami. Yeah, 2 years I call you a brain channel. So, and you see, Ebeku. Now, say, what did your margin say? What did the Patapa? Any person about the year 2024 now. The veterans say we have the band. The veterans say we have the band. We have the band. And say about MPP party here about Benwi. See about the platform. So me and the power. I'm my NDC. Esida. A quite be I about 2024 election. No MPP bachelor Benwi.
Ama, Yajo, and some what is saying. Now, some of them is saying to Mecca. I can try. I say, Ja, if you are since the baby on singing me, they are nothing. And you
A minute to 8, we'll bring you tech and social media trends before we get back into this. And it's brought to us by First National Bank. Now, what if I told you that first things first? That there are things etched in stone that will never change. We all know that 1 comes before 2, A comes before B. And that B comes way before the letter N. And what if I told you that at FBM Bank, our goal is to put you, our cherished customer, first, and that our financial services offer the gold standard of value and excellence, that our products and services have been designed just for you. that you deserve the finer things in life, and banking is no exception. When you think of a bank that cares and puts its customers first, put the B before the N. Think FBN Bank. You first. So take and show me that trend, Nathan Kwao.
Yeah, very interesting Twitter trend. So Stonebwoy, Shatawale, Sarkodie. So several music conversations happening. Remember, Stonebwoy recently went around. He's on a media tour talking about his new album, The Fifth Dimension. So several people talking about that. And of course, once Stonebwoy is mentioned, Shatawale gets mentioned as well. Actually, we just
Shatawale.
It's just there. So those other things in the trend, a few sporting related trends, Sadio Mane, Thomas Partey, Man United, all of these things.
Sadio Mane's birthday was, I think, yesterday.
Yes. So all of that also popping up in the trends. To some tech news, and Chinese tech giant Alibaba has announced plans to roll out its own artificial intelligence ChatGPT style product. Okay, now its cloud computing unit says it will integrate the chatbot across Alibaba's businesses in the near future, but did not give details on its timelines. Now, in recent months, tech companies around the world have unveiled their own so-called generative AI chatbots, and several companies are doing same. So that's the latest from Alibaba. They say they are bringing out their own chatbot, so be on the lookout for that particular one.
That was pretty quick. Thank you, Show Me That, friends. Brought to you by FBN. You first.
One day, an old lady inherited a huge sum of money. Her family worried about how to break the good news to her. They feared that the sudden good news might give her a heart attack. And so they decided the family doctor who was experienced in delivering such news should be the one to tell her. And when he did, surprisingly, she just smiled. Relieved, he asked, "What are you going to do with all that money?" She replied, "I'm going to give you half." The doctor had a heart attack. People are often surprised when we put them first. At FBN Bank, that's what we do. We put you first. Open an account with us today and enjoy mobile banking, USSD banking, shop and pay with our prepaid Visa cards, MasterCard, and many other services designed with you in mind. FBN Bank, you first.
Join the conversation on the Citi Breakfast Show on Facebook at facebook.com/Citi97.3, Twitter at twitter.com/Citi973, and Instagram at instagram.com/Citi973 with the hashtag CitiCBS.
Resurrect your love for shopping at the Kitia Victory Sale happening inside Kitia Mall. Get up to 30% off selected items from our wide variety of furniture and home accessories and leave feeling glorious. Explore our furniture universes and be spoiled for choice. There's a perfect item for your home on every corner. The sale runs till the 16th of April, so visit us on the Spintex Road and enjoy shopping at a discount this Easter.
And listeners, we now welcome Mr. Galaxy to give us an Easter special weather report.
Thank you. Hello, lovely listeners. We can confirm that from the 3rd to the 15th of April, there's going to be a storm over selected Samsung authorized stores across the length and breadth of the country. Massive clouds are gathering and it's going to rain big discounts. 1,500 cedis off the S23 Ultra 1TB and 1,000 cedis off the 512GB version. 750 cedis off the S23 and S23 Plus. Also, for every A54 and A34, you get a backpack. And for the A14, you get a brand new bottle. Finally, you get 50 cedis off on the A04 range of phones. All Ghanaians are advised to prepare for this incoming discount storm and stay safe from non-discounted gadgets. Terms and conditions apply.
This is the Citi Breakfast Show, the city's biggest conversation.
Unleashing the power of relevant radio. This is Citi 97.3.
The Citi Breakfast Show. Rise above the noise.
Sada, when I'm a sister, Mukai those days. So I ain't changed. You're the one who's acting strange in your ways. Yeah, with the any job, and I mean, yeah, why I'm a corporate. And so now you're comedy, now more fret. Now me dini head, now some medina call ya yes, now me need be share, now say me honor when I'm a best rare. No more appetite, strictly papaya. Man, boom, so, Obi, I'm with it. I feel to me cat there. No more can tell me, Nishika call ya some ball, I never tell. Mess I want when you me patch. I ain't Reggie Chairman, Yamupe. Fresh, ya Jimmy so. Reggie, swinging out, my memory. Obedi day, Obenon day, almost send me a hip like for snow. Keep bash, my flow. Missifika, why you pay me pro? They say, Disco, Benny, Ghana, Reggie, what is the honor matter? Reggie, send me crucial. Did you be crying here, boy, and Sam, and Cola, whom I need a come. Show business, memo, think on every year.
6 minutes past 8, Citi Breakfast Show. So it's a low-key celebration day for Reggie Rockstone, but big stories to discuss. In politics, MPP held a rally at Praeso. Bernard Avle, Minister for Agric, made very dangerous statements about the 2024 election.
Go ahead.
And I think the two most important things which really people are not happy and then which raise eyebrows.
I'm trying to be the true shot, not like
where it says we will never hand over power to the NDC. And then also the point about they will use every means possible. Now, I'm not sure whether we are, which aspects of the speech we should sort of take, like this is just politics, and which we should take as this is potentially treasonous, which is what the NDC is calling this. So I'm going to call up somebody who works in this space, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, Executive Founding Director of the IDEG, to give us some insights into what to make of this and what this type of rhetoric portends for the election, because that's really what it is. Dr. Akwete, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Look, I really wish on Easter Tuesday I'll be calling you to say Happy Easter. I hope you had a good break. I didn't.
I was waiting for it, even an invitation to lunch.
Yeah, but
it didn't happen.
Then politicians open their mouth and we have to now discuss the kind of things they say. So I'm in, by the way, Happy Easter, though. Happy Easter. I hope you had a good celebration.
Thank you. Same.
Wonderful. So I played about 2 minutes of the audio. He was on the rally talking, and I'm not sure whether to even be shocked, because politicians have become known for this type of thing. But be that as it may, what was your reaction when you heard the speech that Bernard Avle gave over the weekend?
Well, I think it's in the old mode of thinking that our democracy and violence, coexist. And so when you say you are not going to hand over power, and I think he ought to have gone to the point is that if we voted out, we would stay. We wouldn't go. It would be clear, but he left it a bit ambiguous. We are not going to hand over power. But the fact is that in democracy, the rules are clear. The elite consensus is when the people decide, it's a decision of the people, not the politicians, that we are giving you the mandate, limited, to govern for 4 years. And you have lost the elections, you concede, and you move on. So the concession that an opposition leader makes and says, well, I congratulate you based on the figures and so on and all that, congratulations, is a very important part of a democratic culture. And as soon as anyone gets up and says, I'm not going to respect that culture, that value, that norm, it's actually subversive of a democratic system. And you see it in the army. You see, the army says, I don't need you to tell me to overthrow an elected government and take power. And when I take the power, I don't owe it to you. So I'll govern by decrees, and you have to obey or the consequence will be nasty, and so on. That is the occasion that the handing over doesn't occur democratically, but force is used to take power and hold it. Then the pressure builds again. We don't want you. The people always say, go and leave us to manage our own affairs with our rights and duties. So it's a serious statement he's made, and that needs to be condemned unreservedly. I've had opportunity to speak about it sometime yesterday, and I said, actually, we have cause to worry because it is Brian, the Honorable Minister now. Because of what happened. Ayawaso West Wogon, the short commission, what came up. And you saw the anger of the police on that occasion, that some other force could emerge within political cycles. And he was Minister of State in the presidency. And if you listen to the police carefully, including the former IGP, Mr. Champon, who was on the committee, they did not take lightly to this. Now, we should also remember that not only did this Ayawaso West Wogon thing then showed how another force could organize besides the state, but on two occasions in elections 2016 and 2020, the armed forces general had a press conference and warned that if anything threatens our democracy, like violence on a large scale, they will step in and at the democracy, the territorial integrity, and the unity of the country. They did it in 2020, and they did it in 2016. We monitor this thing. And we've had a lot of talk about former soldiers and so on and so forth. So the question is, did he think through this, the implications, the connotations, or was it one of those emotional things that, you know, on the platform, you see people chanting and you say, it's a very serious thing. It needs to be clear. So for me, I do not think from the Ministry of Agriculture, where he is now, he will be able to organize his men. Because, yes, there were men. There were men in the old castle, which used to be the seat of government before Jubilee House. And we got into all those things. He's no more in the presidency as security minister or something. And so we also have to be measured in looking at what he said and the gravitas of it. Should it lead us to run under our beds, or should we be defiant in our civic responsibility and say, no, this is not what we made? Because elections is a decision making by the people, just like a referendum. And you should obey our decision. Otherwise, if you have issues, go to court. President Kufuor, you remember the 2008 elections and the several rounds in determining the winner of the president. There were 3 rounds. But after the 3rd round, when we were still not sure what is happening, President Kufuor came in and said, hey, guys, I have a limited term. It's getting close. I'll hand over. If you have issues, and he was talking to his party predominantly, go to the courts, and the courts will deal with this matter. It ended the whole thing. Now that this statement has, revived those fears or triggered probably another version of it, because there is break 8 and there is end 8, and the 3rd term we must have. Should they do it in the disrespectful of the electorate that gives it the mandate? Should they come and give us the policies they would pursue differently so that we get out of this economic crisis and IMF dependency for 54 out of our 66 years of independence? That's what the people want to know. Would they improve living conditions? And would our incomes go up? Good health care? These are the things we want to hear. The people will then decide. If they then decide that, look, we saw you in the last 8 years, thank you for your service, but we'll try another one, that is fine. But this is not what it is about. So going forward then, how do we deal with it? I think that in the past, when people have made statements that threaten our national unity or security, the police invite them. It happened to Kennedy Japan. You remember this statement about how Asantes or Akans are being threatened. It was always the 2016 or 2012 elections. He was invited.
Yeah.
So have we heard that?
I think Koko Anyidoho was also invited at some point for some statement.
He had to walk to the headquarters.
Yeah.
We also heard of Mr. Ampofo.
Yeah.
who is actually has a case in court. So can the police show a fair hand? Freedom and justice, the crown they wear, that is what is on. Could they invite him? Then we'll know whether, this is something that we just said or there is something. The rule of law requires that incendiary, subversive statements ought to be investigated.
Okay. Now, Doc, the other challenge is the MPP has come out to defend this. Now, the context is that this statement was made at a MPP Arise and Build Unity Walk at Impraeso, which had the General Secretary, Justin Kodia Frimpong, Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompre, Eastern Regional Minister Seth Kwame Champong, and National Organizer Henry Boachi. Now, during that program, the presumptive frontrunner in the MPP flag bearership race, who is the vice president, also spoke. And incidentally, he said that MPP will break the 8 in the governance cycle. But so my point is the MPP as a party has come to defend this, and they are sort of trying to say, it's like NDC majoring on the minors, and that there's nothing really in this that is incendiary. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you think the president should do? Because I don't think he was at the rally, but based on the example you gave about Kufuor's time, would you say that this type of thing can be mollified if the president came out to make a specific comment about the issue of handing over and all of those things?
It would be good, because we look up to the president and not necessarily the party. It's the president who is president of Ghana, father of the nation, commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And these three things put him in a special role to protect our democracy in Ghana. And I believe he believes in democracy. So it is for the president not to stand with his party necessarily, but assure Ghanaians that he would make sure the elections are run well and that the results are respected. His term would end. If he spoke, I think he will allay the fears, because the statements by the party and the secretary generals and so on, they are questioning our democracy. And they are thinking force is what they must determine a leader, which is totally wrong. I don't think the president will subscribe to this. So I think it's good if he spoke and allay the fears and say, no, we'll go through the processes as it is. We have an electoral commission. We have gone through this experience for 30 years. There are challenges, the economy, social development, whatever. But do we need violence and imposed rule by any party to tackle these problems? No, we ought to consolidate on our democracy and now look at the development challenges and how we're going about it. So I think I would also say that we have how many months to the elections?
we have a year and probably
and some 8 months.
8 months, yeah.
Yes, a year and
20 months.
8 months. This will change, but it ought to be monitored. But the police should be active in confronting this. Are they disclosing that they want to stage a civilian coup? It ought to be investigated. And this is where you want to see the police that is an institution of the state and, is able to perform its functions that way. It might mean that, look, a young trainee, that they are. But they ought to act. And the president should. If the president spoke, and I think it would be a good thing if he did. But going beyond that, you see, the idea that every election we should have this intimidation and threat of violence, 2008, 2012. 2016 was a bit different, although there were also risks. The army again issued a warning that if violence broke out in the country, they would intervene. And they will intervene to defend our democracy. And so by any intervention is a coup. In fact, it will aggravate our situation. Look at West Africa now. We've seen the states where the army have come back. Ghana is under severe security risk. Threat outside. Jihadists, plus those groups countries surrounding us, have all seen jihadists. And they want to penetrate. We have the armed forces fully focused on this. Are we going to distract them to look at party politics kind of issues? And in that situation, how do they act? So we are putting our democracy at risk considerably by these statements. It's incendiary, ought to be condemned all round. Every single person or authority, chiefs, business people say, no, we don't want this. Let's speak out against it. Let us go through our processes and the rules and the procedure. Tell us what you want to do for Ghana in the next 4 and 30 years. And let us see whether, yes, it will solve our problem, so we'll go with you. But the disrespect to the electorate, when the parties now threaten each other, we would also mobilize, and there's going to be a fight. There's an ex-general who says he's dreamt of war, and so on. I mean, these are choices we can avoid. And I think we should all condemn it and speak louder. At the end of the day, the vote is our power. Because when it comes to using force to stay in power, then the competitor is the army or the armed forces. And they've issued their warning. It's there in the paper. You'll find it.
Yeah, but that's for 2020. The concern about 2024, and look, you've done elections over the years, so you've seen a lot of things. But the concern, I mean, last month or so, the army did something in Ashaiman that many people thought the government ought to have condemned. We didn't hear condemnation. We had got an endorsement from the Defense Ministry and the deputy. There was no comment from the presidency, although it was captured that soldiers went in a style which was completely extrajudiciary to go and round up people. In fact, the police issued a statement about their operations in Ashaiman, which exposed that the army, what they were doing, they were not doing it with the collaboration of any other security agency, all right? So you put that aside. Then there's a whole fear around, like people think the judiciary is being packed. There's a lot of comments about when the opposition lost the 2020 election and they lost the court case, which raised doubts about the way they see the judicial system, all right? Now, if you've spoken about the police themselves and the need for consistency. Now, democracies are established by institutions that are fair. So if people who are parts to an election feel like the judiciary, the army, or the police, or whatever group is not necessarily being fair, I mean, that is serious, right? And I'm just asking whether if you look at previous elections, this is normal, or we have reason to be concerned about this particular 2024 election.
We have reasons to be extremely concerned. And especially as now, there's an action and reaction to the threat of violence or to disrespect the norm that you lose elections, you hand over, the people have decided. And if you say you are not going to respect it, but you're going to stay on in power, you are never going to hand over, then you are imposing yourselves on us. You see, so it could be rhetorical, but my position is this. We have been so focused on elections and the fear of violence that we don't even want to attempt to bring about the reforms that has been debated for so long. Some of the reforms has to be determined by the people in a referendum. And those kinds of reforms counter violence because once the people have decided right, their decisions are binding in a referendum on every government to implement for the changes that we need to occur. And so we should ask ourselves, is it the fear we have that they are instilling in us that we must cower into subservience and accept? Or should we say that, look, we would go to the polls and vote? The president himself has spoken about his commitment to reforms. He wants to bring back the referendum and the reform of local government and so on and so forth, but a consensus ought to be built. Frankly speaking, from our analysis and observation, consensus has emerged in certain areas, but our minds are not on because we speak the language of review. So what is it that can be done to counter this? What empowers the people? I believe that we should also think about the things that if we did would even eradicate the threat. And that is where we ought to put pressure also on the president and also bring ourselves together to say, how do we change the system? We've been to the Supreme Court for a couple of months, and reforms that the Supreme Court from 2012 to 2016 pushed, it gave us one of the best elections, 2026, in our history, in the Fourth Republic.
You mean 2016?
Yes.
2016.
What was the threat of violence that came? They went to court. The court made decisions. The Supreme Court played a certain important role in steering us out of violence in 2016. Actually, when the international observers came, the AU, ECOWAS, Commonwealth, SADC, and they were briefed, that was the time that the Army too had issued a warning that if there's violence and it can't be controlled, they'll step in. That was the first time these kinds of warnings started coming. They engaged. There were reports made to these missions, and they engaged seriously. So it is not the first threat that we've had, but it's the behavior of two parties that we call duopolies, whose wish to come to power or hang on to power overrides the best interest of the nation. And that we have also opportunity and the power to stop. Unless the president says, I'm no longer interested in going forward with the reform.
Yeah, just by the way.
So what I'm saying is that there are options or things to do to eradicate this fear that we are.
Yeah, I was just giving a postscript on the president angle because you remember last week the CODEO appealed to the president to reverse the appointment of two people considered to be MPP supporters or members to the Electoral Commission Board, which as of now we have not had a response yet. And I was adding that to the whole list of concerns around institutions and an election. And you do know that for an election, the EC, the judiciary, the police, the army, very critical. So that, and again, the view is that we in Ghana, we sort of, the institutions that seem to work are the ones that are more temporary. So for example, the Peace Council that was brought in, which you championed, or the forums that you help, you bring Otumfo and all these guys. It's almost like these, they are not even necessarily any state institutions, constitutional bodies per se, but it's almost like some consensus arrangement emerges to help or force the state statutory bodies to actually do their work. And at least for the few elections I've monitored, that seems to be the trend. So you have a CODEO or a Peace Council or some national forum on peace building, almost all of which you are involved in somehow, coming in to calmness. I mean, should we not institutionalize these things rather? Because it looks like every election for the next few years, we're going to have this type of duopoly leading to struggle for resources and state capture. So the arrangements that mitigate that competition must rather be institutionalized, or even we must put it in the constitution so that it doesn't. So what if Dr. Quit is not there? What if we don't have an Otumfo for a period, whatever? Like these figures we use to try and get the politicians to do the right thing. We may not always have people like that, right? So it may mean we need more institutionalized mechanisms of consensus rather than what we seem to have now.
Okay, you have a point, but it's the case that I'm also making. That anyway, Peace Council is institutionalized. There's a law backing it. It's a state agency. Its membership from various states and so on does not reduce its stateness. And the fact that the state, there's a law backing it. And usually we respect institutions backed by law. Civil society is not backed by law in what we do. Women's Aglo prayers 4 years ahead of elections is not backed by law. But it's their faith and citizenship that rules. So there are things we do. But if you want to know why violence keeps recurring, it's simple. Two parties have emerged as duopolies. The institutional framework, so you're going to institutions and institutionalize it. The framework designed for our democracy did not anticipate this. It was more a question of, will the PNDC that became NDC stay in power for good? And no one took it seriously that the MPP would emerge within 8 years. And then now we have two parties. This institutional framework was not designed to handle that. And so the only institution we had to deal with democracy was the Electoral Commission in terms of these processes of changing government and so on. So post-elections, the Electoral Commission is confined to elections, planning, execution, review, whatever. But non-electoral things like how they are behaving, the vigilante violence, and so on and so forth, it's not for them. And then you ask yourself, our political parties, don't we regulate our duopolies in the economy? Check the telcos. There was an attempt to even look at water, electricity, and all that. So the question is, when you have those who vie for the power of the state, and we give everything to them, they are not regulated beyond elections. And they can do whatever they like. They can spend our money the way they like, and so on. Nobody is brought to book, and so on and so forth. Is this the system? Can't we do something about it? We can. Because political parties in Europe and America, there are regulatory institutions around them, especially with money. Where do you get your money? Have you accounted for? So accountability is solid. In Europe, they have a framework where if you are a party every year, it's mandatory for you to present your policies and programs. And you do not have the power to take over the institutions of state. And instead, only your party people should be heard when you are in power. So these institutions are there. And when you violate the law, they'll get you. After all, the legendary German Chancellor Kohl, left office, resigned because of expenditures that he was alleged not to have declared fully. So there's regulation. Boris Johnson, you saw, they are still investigating him, and so on and so forth. So where are those structures in our system? Zero. And when we talk about the president is too powerful, there's this concentration of power and so on, well, those are things you could deal with if you also put regulatory institutions in place. The state is not the president. Okay, the president is empowered to exercise the powers of the state, but he has a fixed term and he has limitations on his power. So we are quick to look at, where is this person and so on. It's institutions that bring about development and sustain democracy. And those institutions cannot be controlled by parties. That's why we put forward the idea that if you have a regulatory institution for elections, you must have one for the post-election space and parties' behavior. For parties who have been always overthrown by military and authoritarian regimes, the cost to the nation is they never had the chance to develop their development capacity and do not only election, but election empowers them to deliver development. They don't have. What do we do about it? Now, to cut it short, we then came out and said, look, Multi-Party Democracy Commission, which is a state entity, not controlled by any party and by law, given certain powers, must engage in these processes with the parties and institutions needed to make sure that the parties serve our interests best. Peace, stability, development, nation building, citizenship, and not this thing that has come out as some of the things that happened in the 50s between two ideological camps. And they have armed vigilantes. Where are the vigilantes? Who said they've disappeared? So we've come to a point, 30 years is good. Stability has come. But the majority youth, who are the voters, the women and so on, are saying this democracy is not serving our needs. That's what we should be thinking about. So that they do not give up. Because when they give up, our democracy, once the history of coups are always remain potent, and the lessons so, and they are a threat. So going forward, there are how we can deal with this duopolistic behavior that represents or portrays itself as the state. But the state is not the party. The party comes in only as an agent and has to operate within. So we need to look at the framework. And that is why, CDD's, I keep referring to this, post-election survey, 2020 election survey that they did. When they published the results, there were two clear results that went above threshold. They were in the 70s. 71% of Ghanaians want to vote for their mayors, MMDCs. They want it to be a non-party-based election. But in the same survey, 78%, a higher number, said the local government system is not working. The question is, both have met its threshold, over 70. After all, we have 75, which says if you are going to do a referendum, 40% turnout and 75% yes. So just look at the two. So they've defined it. But it's not for them to sort out the technical details of going forward with this. And we are saying that It begins with looking at the executive arm of government, especially, not just the presidency. Local government that is not functioning, 78%. How do we reform it? And in that reform, parties will be affected. And the regulatory framework will be put in place. And it can be done before the elections to take out the sphere of violence. The people must be confident that their vote gives them the power to make decisions. Will the president open that space? He talks to civil society several times and he says, yes, show me the consensus and I'll take the steps. So instead of wallowing ourselves in fear and going to the police and so on, we should also see how democracy empowers us with ideas and so on to effect change. What can we go forward with that will change the situation ahead of the 2024 elections?
Thank you very much.
That is the question we must also engage on. And we are happy to collaborate with you on this. If you can
amazing. Definitely. As ever, thank you, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, Executive Director, IDEG, Institute Democratic Governance, speaking on this issue. Brian Champon's speech or comments over the weekend at Impraeso, roundly condemned by many, deservedly so. 836 comments welcome. 054-998-6996. I think you gave me an insight on Thursday, or was it Wednesday, that I thought I think you said that a lot of times when politicians speak, they are not speaking to me or you, they are speaking to their followers. And therefore I should interpret the things they say through those lenses. Granted that, but the fact that you are speaking to your followers does not mean you can say anything. So I want to separate the what you said is true, that sometimes when they speak, they are speaking to their base. But even speaking to your base, this is completely unacceptable.
Yes, but...
And then the MPP now coming to sort of defend it, to say he said nothing wrong and that they are committed to peaceful elections. I think it's showing that the party is weak. Because you be able to say, unless I'm misunderstanding, the party will be able to say, look, this is not what the MPP represents. And therefore, what Mr. Champon said does not represent. I said it on our platform. You should retract it. Then we move forward. But they come and they do the usual. No, we support. It's not true. You are the ones. It's NDC. You are the police. You are in hysteria. So it's like they are blaming right-thinking people who say this is unacceptable by making us feel like, well, did I listen to this fully? But I just played this in twice. In fact, when I played the second time, some people are like, why are you playing it so many times? I'm like, why shouldn't I play it? He said it in public. Okay? So I'm not even sure whether we are talking about the same speech for which the MPP now comes out to defend this, and I'm sure you're asking, why am I surprised?
Oh, no. Did he say this to resounding boos?
They were shouting, they were cheering.
And he was being egged on. You've seen the video.
When you see the video, the guys around him were not even listening to him. The guys behind
hype guys.
No. The executives on the desk were chatting. I think they just gave me it's just fire. Yeah, so fire. When the thing started heating up before they started paying attention, by which time he had done all the damage already.
It's normal for them. You see, Bernard, let me wrap this up quickly for you based on our conversation from last week. And my theory that we've reached a place in our democracy where at the moment the responses you've heard. So NDC issued a statement about this.
Yeah.
Right?
2-pager.
MPP response and says, hey, he said nothing wrong. So they are doing their thing. In the middle there, you've had IDEC issue statements. You've had Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo come out and say something. You've had a few independent people say that what he said was wrong. But bottom line, how will Brian understand that what he said was wrong? He's going to look at the louder voice.
Who are his people?
Yes, who are his people? You see, the danger that nobody wants to address is, and which is something that we've been faced even with the position of leadership in this country, finance minister, whatever, is the state of where we live. You see, in the realms of the MPP and the NDC, Dr. Akwete does not exist. Nyaho Tamaklo does not exist. Bernard Avle does not exist. John Mahama exists. Esiedun Ketia exists. Justin Frimpong Kodia exists. So your thoughts on the economy are not relevant. The thoughts of Justin Frimpong Kodia on the economy is what holds sway. Esiedun Ketia's report on the economy is what we will challenge.
So they are dealing with themselves.
They are speaking above your head. until that space in the middle gets broader. You see, because reasonably, that's why I asked you, he spoke to loud cheer. And he kept at it. Okay? Because one, let us not be deceived that the person who is speaking does not have an understanding of the audience he was addressing. He has a very clear understanding of it. He knew what they have this figured out. Okay? So until we get our democracy to the point where institutions and the politicians themselves, the actors themselves know that I can say this and I cannot say this, because if I say this, the police might call me.
So then that goes to the next question of the institutions which can then deal with this.
Because at the moment, we have also not reached the point where the institutions are independent of these two systems enough to actually play a firm role in keeping discipline. You understand? So he will say this knowing that there is no way anybody from somewhere is going to call him outside of Dr. Nyahota Maklo, outside of Dr. Akwete, outside of Bernard Avle,
or probably Kwame Pianim or a few other
clearly
people.
They do not regard.
Are you saying that the police will not dare to call him?
What would be the basis?
Consistency, because they invited Koko Anyidoho when he said some things. Dr. Akwete gave us a list of people they invited for saying things which are not even as serious as this. Right? I mean, even in Kumasi, some NDC guy said something recently, and he was arrested. In fact, he was supposed to go to court. Right? It's like some junior ranking NDC communicator said something.
Yeah.
So if
the one who said that violence.
Yeah. So I mean, if the police is being, I mean, I could explain it very clearly. You said two things. The Constitution is very clear. You will hand over power if you lose to whichever party.
Yes.
And then you cannot say that you will use any means, because there are means legal and there are means which are illegal. So some means are subversive to the Constitution. So if the police is listening, the police can say, look, you have to come and explain. And as he said, there are people like the former chairman of the NDC who have made statements which are even in camera, leaked tapes and things, which are now being used as a basis for prosecution. And this somebody comes openly to make statements which could suggest that he is not going to abide by the Constitution. But you cannot tell me that the police should not be interested. You ask, okay, Mr. Achempo, come and tell us what you actually meant by what you said. He should be invited. Kenneth Japan said something about some group of people. He was invited. You see, so the consistency of institutions is what people are asking for.
Which is the point I am making, that until the two sides come to understand that there's that consistency, you will get these incidents happening. Because the stronger one will know that most often than not, based on who says it, you get away with it. Point two for me. This was Affirmation Day for Brian Achampo.
Affirmation Day?
Oh, yes.
Meaning what?
Of his growing status within the MPP. Let's not beat about the bush as if we do not know who Brian is within the MPP silently. He is the main man in that neck of the woods.
You mean in the eastern region?
In the eastern region for the MPP. And he's done it very quietly. In the past 5 or 6 years that he's been actively engaged, have you heard Bernard Avle talk before?
Not really, apart from the
yes,
where you interviewed him and he got into trouble.
Yeah, the also was one.
Yes, have you? No, but I'm saying on political platforms, he does not do political platform talk.
He doesn't do that much.
You understand? But he's also gone through a process where the party felt that the government felt that he was actively plotting against it. Out of that, minister appointment came. Then we come to your neck of the woods, so the largest gathering.
You are even bringing the appointment into the focus of this. So you are not saying he was appointed on the basis of, say, we need somebody to replace Dr. Free necessarily. Maybe that, but in addition, this guy could be, if not brought in, could be potentially problematic for us.
Oh, of course.
And therefore, we should bring him in.
Yes, and I'm just saying that on that day, where you have all those people of like thinking gathered there, in his neck of the woods, in the part of the country where he is the most powerful politician.
So this is in Paris, so next door neighbor.
The part of the country where he is the most powerful.
Yeah.
He gets a microphone and this is what he decides to say. Okay, so in doing that, he is telling you that this is, I am ready to play the game and say the right things politically, as we see in this country, which is sad for me, considering the fact that he had done really well for himself as a politician without actually getting into these kinds of things. But it has also reached the point where he might need to publicly declare himself as I'm a typical politician.
I am in the.
I am not unlike others.
The other question, though, is the party organized this event, and the vice president who was there.
Yes.
And then he spoke about break the 8. So was this also some sort of tacit, we will not let Baumia lose type of thing they were doing? Because the president was interesting. The president was at Abetifi to commission the Stone Age Park, but he does not.
Also, some police.
But he didn't go through the rally.
No, he did not.
So in a sense, this is also like.
Because if the president had been there, it would be read as an endorsement of what was happening.
So his absence there was deliberate.
These things are never random.
But does that reduce the weight of what happened?
No, it does not reduce the weight. But the point I am trying to make to you is, if we do not grow the democracy quickly, which is the disappointment I keep expressing to you, that the democracy is not. Brian,
it's aging, but it's not maturing.
It's not maturing.
It's 30, but
yes, Brian. We will have a lot more of these statements. You see, because this morning, I've seen the new narrative that is defending this.
Yeah.
So there are videos of stitched videos of John Mahama, and it is clear they have been stitched. So nobody should tell me that I should say allegedly. I'm experienced enough to see a stitched video.
So they are sort of piecing it together.
Yes, I have done media and editing for 20 years.
And they are sharing it.
I can tell a clipped video when I see it.
So to equalize.
Yes. So this person says this. So now it is being framed that Brian's statement there
is a reaction
to several taunts by Mahama on the campaign ground. And so they are saying that, well, if this is what the NDC has been saying, well, we will meet you boot for boot, because this is what we've been saying. And I will tell you this, Bernard, to your disappointment, the hardcore, they are happy about this.
Wow.
You see, that 5 million that I spoke to you about last week, very happy about this.
Wow.
Because it matters to them.
It matters to them.
Yeah.
But do they not see that this can undermine our democracy and lead us down the path that we are seeing? I mean, the context, West Africa is really in trouble. We are possibly the only, and I'm not even sure we are that serious, but at least we are the only hope. if you look at serious, because you see, a lot of the West African countries, their democracies in terms of electoral democracy, institutions, voting. Ghana did something fantastic in 2009, right? Where first the 2000 election, where the NDC handed over to the MPP, and in 2009 when the MPP handed over back to the NDC, and in 2016. So Ghana has done something that a lot of countries have not been able to do in generations. Like if you are born in Gabon, you are talking about your francophone students, Nathan, or even in Uganda.
Oh yeah.
Like there are the countries that have experienced what we've experienced. You can count them on your finger. Not that many.
Yeah.
Right? So you would have thought that with that level of experience, our political class should know that elections are not even do and die. Because if I'm doing elections in Uganda against Yoweri Museveni, and I have a fighting chance, I could say it's the do or die. But in Ghana, you have elections that have proven that they are always close and it's possible to change. So why should politicians be rather getting worse? If you are in Togo or somewhere where there's no hope for change, then you can be doing such things. But you are in a country where you have seen successful changes in government, which should let you even know that there's no need for this type of rhetoric.
Let me tell you something.
So why do they actually keep doing it?
Let me tell you something. If you read the recent Afrobarometer, they did the Democracy Watch in West Africa. They didn't touch Ghana. They did Sierra Leone, Liberia, and one other country. It escapes my mind. Josephine, please help me.
Sierra Leone, Liberia.
One other country. And looked at what democracy means and basically came to the conclusion that there's a decline. But even more importantly for me, as a student of these things, the things that separate our political enemies, like political opponents, enemies is a poor word to use, political opponents in those countries are not the things that separate our political opponents. Let me be honest with you, the MPP and NDC have a lot in common.
Oh yes, Yao Graham said it eloquently on Thursday.
Yes, they have a lot in common.
Yes, even on economic policy.
The kind of animosity that exists between opposition politicians in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, in maybe Guinea, or other contemporary countries is not the same level of animosity that exists.
Okay.
Do you think that John Mahama is ever going to order Akufo-Addo to be jailed for something? Do you think vice versa?
So you think there's some elite consensus there?
There is complete elite consensus. You see, they disagree on a lot of things, but they also agree on a lot of things. Now, the political duel between them is not so much steeped in the kind of animosity we have seen in other places where this one is looking to jail this one immediately.
Yeah.
So it makes even the quality of transitions difficult.
So your point is that even though there's a lot of dislike and competition, there are still some rules around it that are silent.
That both of them, that all these groups obey. And it works for them because of business.
But are those rules enough to keep us safe? Because you see, when you keep hearing such comments, you see, I get you when you say there's an elite consensus, and I see it from the economic side. I see that more clearly on economics, not on the politics. But on the politics, my concern is, are these rules steeped enough to say, oh, don't worry. You see, because some people say, oh, don't worry, nothing will happen. We've seen it before. Every election is like that. Every election is do and die. So we shouldn't, because I feel like when you have 30 years of a constitution, certain statements should become obsolete.
Yes.
But it's actually gaining, and again, I don't know if in 96 or 2000, somebody said this, their party will come out and defend them as roundly as they are. So it seems to me as if the quality of even the leadership of the parties is down, so that if there was a certain level of consensus among the elite in 96 or 2000 or 2004, I have the sense that right now the foot soldiers are the ones who drive thinking in the parties. So long as the foot soldiers like it, you get me? They will go for it. So that elite consensus that you talk about, and if you look at the level of, like, some of the cases, like Atu Forsen, he has a court case and things. A lot of the animosity in the opposition party among their rank and file about what the MPP has done, that elite consensus may not last. It may not even stand the test of another electoral cycle, because these people at the bottom of the base, they feel empowered. They are the guys who decide who wins. They can rage a campaign against MPs. They can even decide that. So for that reason, the general secretary of the party is in parliament doing roll call of who voted for this type of thing. Do you get me? And then you have a lot of talking heads who are also feeding the people with a lot of information that is leading to anger. So my point is, yes, there could be elite consensus at the very highest level, but the fact that they would not condemn such a statement from the MPP should tell you that the tail is wagging the dog. All right.
No.
So the people at the bottom, so like the people at the top, they are looking at, instead of leading, they are like, okay, Charlie, what would the foot soldiers say? If I come out as general secretary or chairman and say what Brian Champon said is wrong, you'll say, Charlie, this guy's a weak general secretary. So let's close the ranks and let's support him, because it will make him popular with the foot soldiers. Why is it that when you go to political rallies, I'll tell you this, when I go and cover MPP and DC events, when you go to the MPP side, I was at Cape Coast. We have booths for media. Nathan, the booths that has Kennedy Japan and the Kumasi guy, what's his name? One to me.
Yeah.
Charlie, the party supporters gather around.
Yeah.
It's like there's a football match going on. So there's a program in the assembly hall. Then you see like 200 people surrounding some place because one to me is on air. The Kennedy Japan is on air. NDC the same. There are some people when they go. So like when you set up your booth and you invite the guy to come and speak, then people go and surround. Do you get me? So I am saying that the leadership is failing even within the parties, particularly in the MPP in this case, and you are hearing more endorsement of what the foot soldiers want. Because 20 years ago, I'm not sure if Darocha were there or all these guys at the highest level of MPP, they will condone such statements openly. Even if they won't condone, for example, they will not, they may keep quiet. But for the party to even come out and say that there's nothing wrong with it. So I am saying your elite consensus theory may be true, but because of the growing influence of the lower people in terms of the base in winning and whipping up electoral support for both parties, that pact is tenuous at best.
It is not. Let me disagree completely with you on that, because the current state of our politics is purely transactional. The base that you are talking about lack resources. What resources are they going to use to do? You see, because
their numbers.
No, you see, because our politics is not heavy on ideology
at all.
So the point you are making would be accurate if that group you are talking about are heavy on what the party stands for. And so the grassroots say that for us, whatever it is you see, this is what we stand for goes beyond material things. It is the culture of the party, the tradition of the party, the ideology of the party. But the base, as we have come to see it, is largely dominated by who has the most resources to spend on that base and who can organize that base at what point. That is why you talk about the persons who in 96 or 97. Look at who controls the base now. You mentioned names. I don't want to sound disparaging.
I'll tell you something. The latest Global Info Analytics poll that they did for the MPP is showing the increasing influence of Kennedy Japan. So you know, if for like 6 months ago it was Bawumia, then Alan, and then everybody else.
Yes.
Then it became Bawumia, Alan, and then Kennedy Japan and the rest. Now it's become very clear it's Bawumia, Alan, Kennedy. Right? So in the past like 3 months, you've seen Kennedy eat into, and again, this is Global Info Analytics poll, eat into Bawumia and Alan. Right? And that is the base. Because they are talking to party supporters. All right? So
and what does he control?
Okay, a lot
of resources.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. That so it's a chicken and egg. So if you are fighting for the hearts and minds of the base, and the base are only there because of the numbers they have,
most of them.
Then
what
I'm saying is that the people at the top, when they make decisions and when they give speeches, are trying to lure the base. And they're not trying to lure the base with ideas. They're trying to lure the base with raw emotions. So my argument is that because our elections have become plutocracies, in the sense that it's who has money, who can control. That's why you're having institutions being weakened, and you're having this type of rhetoric growing within an era where you are expecting the democracy to improve.
And that is the danger that I think they do not see, in the sense that it might get to the point where a day will come, the base might act based on that emotion.
That's the point.
And get injured.
That's the point. Then the top who claim they have a consensus, they don't even know what they are doing. They don't know because sometimes I'll tell you this.
That is the danger.
I'll tell you something. When I go for party rallies as a journalist, you go and you meet party executives. Oh, Charlie, Aloski, what they have in City, everything. Some of the foot soldiers will just be insulting you because of the information they are being fed on both sides, right? So you meet the party leadership, then they understand that you are doing your work. Right? So they say, Umar Sanda, Charlie, you are a difficult journalist, whatever. Then there's some of the food soldiers on social media say, you this guy, you are a foolish guy. You're always interviewing our people and asking them foolish questions. So you see, there's a disconnect between what the party projects to the outer world and the middle classes and what they tell their base. And what you're saying is true, because if the base gets whipped up enough, they will do things that the party will not be proud of.
They can't even control.
And I use my example of when you go to a rally, and you are speaking to, and this is long, when you go, the people in the party who you work with on phone and things, they will say, oh, Charlie, you are tough on us. But they take it as fair game. But their supporters don't see it like that. It's like, you this guy, Charlie, you're an agenda guy, we'll finish you. So if you keep feeding your people with such things, and which is why I'm worried that for all our stellar qualities in terms of, yes, there's a lot of money in politics, plutocracy they call it, moneycracy at West. But at least we have come with an arrangement that changes governments. Through elections. Why should that one, that the last thing we have, that one too, they want to take it away? Because that's the only thing that differentiates us from the others. Because in terms of whether the government even does what we want, whether they are efficient in managing our resources, they are not.
At least we have an opportunity.
The only thing that you can say we have that the others don't have is that when we go to elections, there's a chance that the government can lose. And they've been, and sitting presidents have lost, parties have lost. Now, if this type of rhetoric and this type of indication comes from a sitting government, it for me, it threatens the only thing Ghanaians have, because the only thing Ghanaians have is ability to change government.
Yes, but that's
through the ballot box.
But that is also being eroded because, again, unless we are pretending not to see what is happening, from where I sit, there is a very active point by the bigger parties to try and control the quality of elections.
In the negative or the positive?
Whichever way. But most of them are working towards improving their odds. You understand? So you will have elections, but the quality of the elections will be doubtful. And that is, you see, we are not there yet. But I can, from where I sit, actively see.
But if you ask some people,
it's being worked out.
Some people will say that actually our elections have improved in terms of the system that you used to even identify voters from 92 progressively, from wooden ballot box to transparent ballot box to thumbprint voter ID to picture ID. Do you get me? So in a linear way, you can say that there's incremental improvement there. Again, you've had court cases. The court case in 2012 was much more, you can say, was much more serious than the court case in 2020 in terms of the length of the case and how on edge people were. Like, a lot of people were not sure what happened after the 2012 case. You covered that the whole year. 2020 wasn't like that. People knew that it was more like administrative. So my point is that even though institutions are being eroded, you can make an argument that the elections are getting closer, the smaller parties are reducing in influence, but generally, the elections are not that bad.
The past 6 years, how many ECs have we had?
Chairpersons.
Yes.
2. Is it not 2 years? Charlotte Osei, 2. Jean Mensah.
Yes, 2.
Afrajan was there for almost 15, 20 years.
The past week and a half, what conversation have we been having?
EC.
Those who have been appointed
by the president on the EC.
To be.
Is it clear that these persons should not be there?
I mean, for good reason. Why should you appoint somebody who has clearly political bias on an election monitoring body? So there's no, very clear.
But you've heard the clear justification for it, and has it happened or not?
It has. So you are saying that my claim that elections are improving is actually not true.
No, I am just telling you that both sides or the political class, let me put it there, because who knows, a time might come, the PNC will grow again, or the CPP will grow again. So I tend not to want to restrict these conversations to just MPP, NDC. But what I see is the parties are working assiduously at improving their odds. So
not improving the system.
No, at improving their odds. I'm being very, very specific is what I'm saying.
So instead of improving the system for all of us, they are trying to game the system to their advantage.
They have, and that's what I'm telling you, the MPP, NDC, if the country were run the way those two parties run themselves, Ghana will be like Vietnam by now. I'm telling you. They are the two most efficient political institutions in this country.
You're talking about political organizations.
Yes, political organizations.
Not political ideas, just political organizations.
Yeah. They are the two most efficient organizations in this country, bar none. Look, when they sit down, they plan. They have short-term plans, medium-term plans, long-term plans. They know how to raise money. They know
how to do propaganda.
They know how to organize.
They know how to organize. Their use of data is brilliant. They know how to access technology.
On the voting side.
On the voting side, they know what to do.
But when it comes to governance.
When it comes to governance, it's a different matter. Let the people do what they want to do. Okay, so my concern has to do with the fact that if we are not careful, we are moving towards longer-term elections, yes, but the quality of the elections will decline. Okay, based on the fact that the politicians have reached the point where they know that we can say A, B, C, D. We control the resources, which is why there's such a big fight over control of resources. Because whoever controls the resources controls the masses.
Yeah, so he controls the party. So the election is now who has more money.
More money.
And who can control more people.
Yes.
What do you bring to the table?
The table.
So it means that when they even win, whoever comes to the minister job, you have to be either somebody who brought money or a vassal of somebody who has some resources.
Yes, it has nothing to do with quality.
So big men and small boys in politics revisited.
Yes. Other than that, how? Let me give you a typical example just to wrap this up. How do you have a sitting MP in one region plotting to contest the next election in another region? Sitting MP.
It doesn't happen.
But what kind of politics is that then? You are sitting MP in Adabraka.
Yeah.
But the next election, you want to go and contest in Osu.
No, even in
Bantama. It's not like you've been out for 2 years.
Or you've lost.
Back to back, simply because, I'm no longer popular here. But I have been able to put resources together in this place. So I am going there.
It's about resources.
It's about resources.
About the representation.
Because other than that, it should be very difficult to do.
Then you are saying we are doomed. That basically our politics is controlled by people who have money. And there's nothing else. There's no ideas, nothing.
But Bernard Avle, I don't know why you are pretending as if you sound. I would say you are pretending. You sound as if I have removed some veil from your eyes. I have asked you this question severally. We live in the world of the political elite. They are the wealthiest.
Wow.
They are the wealthiest. Well, if you ask if you ask somebody what they want to do in life in Ghana now, nobody wants to be a doctor or something. Everybody wants to be a politician.
Are you sure?
Bernard, everybody wants to be a politician because what the objective is. If you become a politician, you skip the difficulties that everybody lives with.
And you get straight.
That is what we are looking for. So, Bernard.
So Nathan,
Bernard Champon has said what he wants to say. But we go on.
Are you that pessimistic?
That the system is gaining.
It's getting worse. That's what he's
saying. Yes, you know, I used to think that things would get better until I read the reports on the cost of elections. I think that's when really I came to the realization that it was for those with deeper pockets, fatter wallets, and heavy bank accounts. Because even look at what the parties do in selecting who gets to contest the primary. It's an issue of, this guy's popular. He has more money. He funded us. So let's give him a chance to go to parliament. Listen to the MPs. We criticize the MPs, but listen to the leadership of parliament talk about the quality of debate even on the floor. And if you trace it, it goes back to the fact that somebody got into parliament because he just had money and he could win the primary and he's there.
Wow.
So I get really, really concerned. And I don't know. I wonder when we'll hit a block for us to make a U-turn, but it looks like it looks just as though things won't get better. Those who have the money will get into those positions where they will be closer to winning a ticket to parliament, and by extension, getting to sit in the corridors of power and determines what happens to you and me.
Wow. For the avoidance of doubt, what Bernard Champon said is completely unacceptable. It must be roundly condemned. And I think the MPP's attempt to defend it is disingenuous at best, disgraceful at worst. What they ought to do is to say, this is not what our party represents. This is not the kind of statement we expect from a leader of a constituency, an MP and a minister. And this is not what represents us, instead of trying to change it into an NDC MP.
And for me, I'm even more concerned about the point Godfred made, that all of a sudden, the new narrative that's popular, these people too are saying, listen, so why do we want to even play this game?
That's the game they play. It's called equalization.
I don't get so like what? So I do bad, this guy did well, so what? So what I did was fine?
I don't know. Well, it's 7 minutes past 9. Citi Breakfast Show. We're live in Accra. Lots of comments on this. We just taking some quick adverts before we come back in. Later in the morning, so one of the fears I expressed about the way the media works in Ghana is the fact that, I will say something, Godfrey, finally. There's a myth to the point that we determine what we talk about. There's a limit to what you can do. So, for example, Thursday, I go and moderate a brilliant event. Yao Graham gives a wonderful lecture. Nuanced, very thoughtful, puts the NDC MPP in their place, gives us a sort of roadmap for transformation, right? It didn't get that much coverage over the weekend, all right? Of course, it sounded a bit like academic point. So it was live on Citi TV, which is good, right? We gave it 3 hours, TV, 5 to 8 p.m. We did our part, all right? Then I go to picnic. So Saturday, I go somewhere and I start with, so hey, Charlie. Then by yesterday, when I went to a picnic. Hey, now, Bernard Champon, what's he saying? So it's almost like people have been primed for a discussion on Bernard Champon, right? So whereas I was like, Charlie, on Tuesday when I come back, I'm going to take the Yao Graham
and deal
with it one
some
by
of the
one.
things that he said.
It's like, the agenda has been set for you already because he's going to say something that we have to react to. And it's a problem for me because what he said has to be dealt with and condemned. I agree. But why is he even, like, doesn't he get that where we are in the world? This is like, we have so many issues, we have so many problems, right? We have so many challenges as a country to deal with. And then we have a major platform, and then you go and say this, right? And then
but he organized the platform.
And then the media also somehow, I don't know what to say. Like, it's like you have to, I don't know. It's like we are trying to advance the conversation, but we keep being pulled back. Do you get my point? It's like we are trying to discuss ideas. How do we transform the economy? What should we do to break this duopoly? How do we get our leaders to do what we want? All of this, but it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So it's like, let's go back. NDC. Now, as you said, they're going to take some NDC ones and they're also adding it and saying they've said this. So it's like all the media, most of the media in the country this morning, it will be about whether NDC has said it in the past And it's frustrating because I don't know. It's not like it's like we are our own worst enemies, right? If you look at things from a global context, where the world is, the competition for resources, and the fact that we have no place in the world, and then our leaders are conspiring to keep us down with this type of tomfoolery. I mean, it's I don't know. Maybe you should read some comments. It's very, very, very sad for me, honestly, that 2023 that you think that Charlie Ghana will wake up and move forward. No.
Looking at our context,
Charlie,
where Charlie,
you have
the IMF boss is actually begging on your behalf.
Ghana beyond aid to Ghana begging for aid. That's what you are.
What's today's day?
Ghana. I mean, if you think about it, we said we were Ghana beyond aid. Now we are begging because we are begging. President said, "Charlie, we beg. Give us the deal." Now IMF is even begging.
Today is Tuesday.
Charlie.
By Friday, and you know more about these things. You say we'll get it.
No, the money they will get it.
So if we get it by Friday, wait for the statement that will follow it from this side of the divide.
The statement hasn't even come out when they are using it to say they are breaking the 8.
I'm saying meanwhile, the president of that organization is on her knees,
Charlie,
telling the people you are going to meet this.
And now would they hear politics?
I beg you, save these people.
It means that it also means that it also suggests that the IMF deal will not save us. It will provide temporary political reprieve.
Yes.
Questionable economic transformation, even the so-called macroeconomic stability that it will bring, will probably, in my view, just give this government the impetus to spend more in 2024 to try and win the election by profligacy. That's what will happen. So that's why you've gone there 17 times, which is what Graham was talking about, which is why we have to talk about it, but which is what we have been prevented from talking about because somehow the politicians, and particularly what Mr. Champon did. I mean, why?
Let me annoy you small. Just so that you know just the politics, we like it, man.
That's why we are not. That's why we're not growing.
Do you know when Chris Hughton's contract date is?
Chris Hughton, the Black Stars coach. What do you mean?
Do you know when his contract is?
Contract ends in December 2024.
You think about it.
Was that his making or the GFA's making?
He wasn't appointed by.
He wasn't
So what are you trying to say?
You think about it and go.
Oh no!
I'm just telling you that such is the state of how we measure things by elections.
So after elections, everything is new.
I'm telling you. The elections. That is how the depth to
but the
elections matter.
But why are they borrowing and asking us to pay after elections? if that were to be true, why are we due to pay our next Eurobond tranche in the first quarter of 2025? So when
that one is different.
When it suits them, everything has to be regime specific. But when it comes to debt, now they will pay.
You will pay.
One day things must get better. Don't you go.
All right, a few quick announcements.
Yes, Standard Water has 25 years of experience. They've been providing quality and refreshing water to quench your thirst. They are in 11 regions and they are still providing water for everybody. They've got sachet water, bottled water, dispenser-mounted jar water, and customized water for your parties and other special occasions. Call Standard Water on 0202 055 703 or 0547 334 385. And this ad is FDA approved. Now, the College Educational Services is a test prep center with practical experience, providing excellent tuition services for students, health professionals, and general immigrants preparing to sit for those various English proficiency tests: IELTS, OET, TOEFL, UKVI, PTE, Praxis, and SAT. Our means of delivery are in in-person and online training, and they include regular, intensive, and special classes for candidates with critical needs. They also have private home tuition services. Call them on 0200 397 955 or send a WhatsApp message to 0243 614 654 for further inquiry, or find them near the Wisconsin University College, North Legon. This ad is sponsored by Vodafone Business. Further together. And on the downside of life, if you lose a loved one, speak to the Lashibi Funeral Homes and Crematorium. They've been doing this for 21 years and they'll give you the best private end-to-end funeral service in the country. Call them on 0509 542 409 or send an email info@lashibifuneralhomes.com or visit their website lashibifuneralhomes.com for more info. Lashibi Funeral Homes and Crematorium, dignity for the deceased, comfort for the bereaved.
A few quick comments on the statements made.
Yep, Dr. Bano says, I agree with Godfred. Solid arguments and analysis. The MPP and NDC are more efficient than Ghana. Baba T says, please, elite consensus is completely out of point. What is holding Ghanaians is the peace and blood of our forefathers. If elite consensus is what is working, the Ayawaso issue wouldn't have happened. See, Godfred has said it all. The career path of interest now is politicians for the youth. When the late President Mills rewarded young men without work experience with political portfolios, a lot of the MPP youth defected to the NDC. MPP responded with Sami Ewuku and co. and the politics of grab and hoard for elections. Okay, that's Kojo from Adenta. Ken Accra says the elite consensus is that both of them cannot solve all of Ghana's problems, but they can solve their party problems and family problems. All right.
That's the issue.
Listen, I think the comments from Honorable Bernard Avle are repulsive and irresponsible in its totality. At a time when the economy is in shambles and people are struggling, we have a public servant who is paid by taxpayers spew such reckless statements and endorse violence in the open. But unfortunately, we have the MPP as an elite party endorsing the statement with needless energy. In any serious democracy, the police and other investigative organizations must pick him up for serious interrogation, given his previous portfolios in the highly sensitive National Security Ministry and an ex-army officer. He must have reasons he was so confident in his utterances. That's coming from citizen Sika Togo from East Legon. Charles from Tema says, every time a reckless statement is made or violence is enacted on a citizen, the president has never spoken. So I don't know why you continue to call on him to make statements on such matters. Isn't it clear that the guy just wanted to be president? I see. These are African politicians. I sometimes wonder if they have spouses or men of God who speak to them when these politicians make such utterances. But people we expect to point out such mistakes are all bootlickers. Okay,
you mean like his pastor should be calling him and saying, Charlie,
Chairman, don't
your baptism certificate is still
here. Yeah, don't do it. John Sadoboy.
Somebody said that like their pastor should be calling them, advising them.
Calling who?
The politicians who say certain things.
Don't take me to another.
No, you get him started. It's okay.
Don't take me to another joint this morning.
It's okay. Then just go.
In as much as
Charlie, you are laughing. No, the person said the person's pastors and relatives. Because sometimes when I go on, people come and say, "Hey, Koku, hey, I got fire, look, but
they are pastors."
Yeah, my relatives come.
They are pastors.
They say relatives and friends, whatever.
Okay, that one, yeah.
John Sadoboy says, in as much as I condemn Brian's reckless statements, I also blame the MPs who aided his appointment. I see. This one says, that's why I no longer believe in this thing called democracy.
Sure.
The fact is, the way and manner when some of our politicians talk and the kind of things they do are all clear indications that we are not mentally mature and wise enough to understand democracy. Thomas from Afinia said that. The MPP is showing by its fruits that they do not care about democracy. It's all about winning power. Civil society should roundly condemn this and the police must act now. They should invite Brian Champion to explain himself. The state must bring him to book. Peter from Adabraka. All right.
We'll come back and talk about what we actually want to talk about this morning, which is a conversation about economic transformation organized by the University of Ghana, moderated by Bernard Avle, the one speaking to you, aired live on Citi TV. Absolutely insightful, pointing out the in fact, a consensus among the NDC and MPP to basically continue economic policies that don't help us, but benefiting from it privately. I think there's good enough time to discuss this. So when I come back, I'll play some highlights of Dr. Yao Graham.
Yes, Brian Champion has distorted my plan. I actually wanted to call out an entity for poor customer service they rendered out to me and the missus over the weekend.
Which people?
The art kitchen at the Malcolm Place at Spintex.
Hey, but who? I'm a fittable.
They need to be very, very careful.
The art kitchen.
Yes, it's called the art kitchen.
What did they do?
We got in, ordered a meal.
Yeah, man.
One, it took us almost 40 minutes. To them, for almost 40 minutes for the meal to show up. And when it first showed up, it was the wrong dish they served. And then the person serving the meal had the nerve to tell us that, it's nothing. Take it like that. What? Whilst I'm paying for it?
Oh, you mean the person said you should take it like that?
Whilst I'm paying, the food that I am paying for.
What did you order?
We ordered a beef shawarma. And then they brought a chicken shawarma. And then the lady said, it's chicken shawarma.
But Fanta and Coke is the same.
So please,
no, you want to do
I
it
beg
them.
you.
But you should have told me earlier so that I'll cook it.
It's okay. Me, I've said it's just fine. It's okay. I've said it. So the art kitchen at Malcolm, the nice Spintex place you people have there. Talk to them.
And you went with your missus.
Talk to them that when people order meals, they are not giving. It's not for free.
The unmitigated effort.
We are paying for it. So better give us what we want.
As if the mistake is not enough. They had the effort.
Take it.
But why didn't you speak to their manager?
I did, but I said that I'll air them.
You overfit?
Yeah.
Okay.
So please,
I beg for them. I beg. But I hope you got your beef at the end.
Oh yes. It took 40 minutes from placing the order to getting the right meal. It's unfair.
So yes.
It's unfair.
I hope they gave you your money back. Oh, they took it.
They took it too.
Oh, but if you met the manager, if I were there, I would have said, give me his money back.
It's unfair.
It's not right.
We are saying. But
if he were alone, but to take the madam and to do this, spoil the date.
Let's take a break.
Let's take a break. They don't try.
This is the Citi Breakfast Show, the city's biggest conversation.
Easter means family time and sharing fun moments together. Whether it's traveling up the cold mountains, spending time at home, or hitting up with the boys, it's always exciting. And this season, everyone's invited to enjoy entertainment at its best with GoTV. Come on in and join Africa's biggest local stars, the world's best sports talent, the greatest international sensations, the coolest kids characters, and the hottest reality celebs. With so much on offer, it's the best deal for entertainment at its best. Obiadium. Stay connected on star 759# and make the family time great this Easter. GoTV. Love it.
1xBet. Easy betting, easy winning. 1xBet, reliable bookmaker that offers you a huge range of bonuses, great odds, and many chances to win. Register now on 1xBet.com.gh and use promo code PLAY1 to get 300% bonus up to 3,445 Ghana cedis on your first deposit. 1xBet gives you more.
Gambling can be addictive. Bet responsibly. Not for person under 18 years. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission.
This is the Citi Breakfast Show, the city's biggest conversation.
All right, so let me take you into the first part of this lecture on the economy, the need for a paradigm shift. Coordinator of the Third World Network, Dr. Al Graham, addressed an audience. Here is an excerpt.
As I said, the topic asserts the need for a paradigm shift. Now, what then do I see as the defining paradigm of the Ghanaian economy? I think the defining paradigm of the Ghanaian economy since colonial times, which has been refurbished in some degree, this is a primary commodity export dependent economy, which in some of our work in TWN, we have described as one centered on the export of a narrow basket of hardly processed primary mineral and agricultural commodities with little or no domestic manufacturing, industrial capacity, and the stagnation of the rural economy, leaving it with a low value end, while the high value ends are captured outside the economy. If you look at the profile of Ghana's exports over the past 10 years and beyond, you would find that cocoa, gold, and oil make up more than 80% of our exports. And international trade makes up more than 40% of the country's GDP. When you have that size of international trade in your economy, it makes you vulnerable to the volatilities and vicissitudes of the international economy. And of course, if you are exporting raw commodities, the volatilities of commodities are a key part of the landscape, and you import finished products. So you face challenges. It also means that, of course, the linkages between the sectors of your economy are weak. Okay? So the reproduction of primary commodity export dependence over years, of course, is not a self-determining process. It is perpetuated or transformed by the policy choices, the economic and political contestation within the country over its continuation or discontinuation among the beneficiaries and losers, as well as the internal balance of political and social forces. The primary commodity export dependence, in a certain sense, historically, has defined the parameters and the challenges for development and transformation in Ghana. Now, we can put that those challenges on a spectrum of responses, because if we look, different governments have responded differently to these challenges. I mean, they have responded from seeing it, take Nkrumah, for example, who saw this as a fundamental obstacle to transformation and creating, a life for the Ghanaian people. Jerry Rawlings, when he came to power, saw the collapsed economy as something which was blamable on corruption and bad leadership, and all that was required was to clean it up, get some decent people, and everything would be all right. So his historic contribution was to refurbish this primary commodity export-dependent economy and lay the foundation for the continuities that we have had since 1984. I like to needle my middle-class friends, particularly those on the political right who hate Jerry Rawlings, that they owe him a debt of gratitude. Because contrary to their imagination, that the best leader of Jerry Rawlings is actually the founder of the modern Ghanaian economy. The person who completed the post-1966 coup project of reversing everything Nkrumah tried to do. Jerry Rawlings, Buzia, the NLC, they failed, but Rawlings succeeded. Maybe you should make an honorary member of the property owning, classes. Of course, there's nothing new or profound in describing primary commodity exports dependence in the Ghanaian context. I mean, this is a defining paradigm and constraint of almost all African economies, and there was a concern of all early post-colonial leaders, whether they saw themselves as African socialists, radical socialists, or capitalists. They all saw this as a primary challenge to overcome to advance development. In the Ghanaian case, Nkrumah's 7-year development plan, which comprehensively tried to offer a response to it. Whatever you think about it, it's assumed that this thing needed to be taken as a problematic of development. And therefore, all resources, institution building, human resource development should be determined by the solution to this problem. This is an important point because I will argue later on that what we have had since the refurbishment of primary commodity export dependence in the years of structural adjustment also took the business of building the kinds of institutions that you need for the neoliberal project seriously, so that New institutions were built, old ones were transformed so as to advance this project. The curricula of educational institutions also were changed. I mean, if you take economics, for example, in the 60s and 50s, development economics was taken as a given. I asked somebody who studied economics in Legon recently, do you know Arthur Lewis? He asked me who that was. Arthur Lewis drew up the 51 industrialization plan of Ghana, won the Nobel Prize, and is a founder of developing economics. But it tells you something also about the way curricula, have changed, but that's part of the larger thing. And if you look at African programs, just a quick parenthesis, if you look at the 7-year development plan, an interesting thing, it embodies something which I think is worth noting. Nkrumah wrote the foreword to the 7-year development plan. And J.H. Mensah, who was the executive secretary of the Planning Commission, wrote the introduction. The reason I'm making this point is that J.H. Mensah is seen in today's generation as a man of the MPP, and therefore a simple binary. But in 1961, 62, 63, when the plan was being drawn, J.H. Mensah was the executive secretary of the Planning Commission. And that joint role, forward, introduction, we can characterize as an indication of the nationalist compact, which was agreed on the need for this transformation. And across the continent, of course, many documents have captured this problem. The Lagos Plan of Action, more recent, and the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. Organizations like UNCTAD was created with pressure from African countries as part of having to address this problem. And the calls for the new international economic order by developing countries was centered very much around this transformation. And the problem of volatilities, which was noticed by all these, in a certain sense, our earliest post-colonial experience of it was when, in 1965, cocoa prices fell to a third of what the Nkrumah government had projected them to be as a basis for financing the 7-year development plan. That was the first time Ghana went to the IMF. But on the 22nd of February, it's interesting if you read this 1966 budget, Kwesi Amoah gave an elaborate response to the IMF in a parliamentary statement why they would not accept the terms of the IMF. 2 days later, the Nkrumah government was overthrown. The NLC came to power, and that program was accepted. So that was the beginning of our business with the IMF. Now, beyond Nkrumah, the cyclical effects of primary commodity dependence and its boom and bust, we've experienced it throughout. The oil shocks in the mid-70s were an important part of the crisis that led many countries to turn to the IMF and World Bank. Although the crisis was blamed on corruption, if you look at the data, really, I mean, over a 25-year period, the losses African countries got from terms of trade erosion, according to the World Bank in their book, Can Africa, something 21st century, talks about the fact that Sub-Saharan Africa lost 120% of its gross domestic product as a result of this, global commodity problem. Rawlings's last 2 years were bedeviled by commodity fluctuations. Oil prices went up, gold prices went down, and there was a crisis. And that, of course, contributed, among other things, to their losing the election. President Kufuor was the beneficiary of the commodity boom. Throughout this period, the commodity boom was driving up prices as demand from Asia in particular, pushed prices up and up. But even he had a brief glitch when global food prices went up. And, we had a kind of wobble. Mills, This one time that the country enjoyed double-digit growth in the Mills period was the result of the combination of the beginning of oil exports and also high gold prices. So I'm just illustrating for you the fact that the commodity export dependence has structured, a number of, domestic choices. And it's this same commodity boom which was the context for Ghana beginning Eurobond borrowing. President Kufuor took the first Eurobond loan in his time and has become part of, as it were, the sources of financing with consequences as it's built up. There are questions to be asked, of course, about the basis on which those borrowings were done, the calculation about management, the accountability for them, because the president, when he spoke recently in the State of the Nation address, said the monies were used to build infrastructure. But one of the realities of public finance management in our country is really the weak accountability that we have. So successive governments build this thing up. I'm raising this point because the crisis of our international finance at the moment is not a single regime problem, it's a cumulative problem. It's a cumulative problem in two ways. One, the accumulation of the borrowing, and two, the accumulation of the consequences of the paradigm within which we are operating. As I said earlier, this is the deepest crisis we're having since 1975-83. That crisis under Jerry Rawlings was the moment when Ghana became the shining star for neoliberal reform in Africa. Just a quick thing about some of the stylized facts about those reforms: trade and investment liberalization, financial sector liberalization, export-led growth, the retrenchment of the state, and a focus on private sector-led growth, but also the transformation of the roles of the state and the building of new institutions and, of course, the adoption of new ideologies, as well as the reorientation of state cadre in terms of their function. A key part of that also was the attraction of foreign direct investment. I actually brought a few slides, but I forgot to give it to the organizers, so I guess at this point I just have to press on. The trend in investment liberalization was allied to export-led growth because the investments came particularly into the extractive sector in that period, and very quickly it became one of the biggest areas. Finance was another area which opened up. So in the period since, currently 70% of banks in Ghana are owned by foreign firms. And in that process, also publicly owned banks were either sold off or dismantled, particularly the investment banks. They either became retail banks or they were dismantled, with consequences, of course, for the possibilities of lending to certain sectors. I think the FDI attraction is important because there's an assumption in the market-led growth thing. FDI was expected to maybe also replace a role that the state played historically, in economic development. And we know that there were across-the-board incentives offered to foreign capital. Yes, in the back. Okay, this side. Yeah, thanks. Even though there's a lot of evidence from many studies that these incentives make no difference to whether people will come or not. Angola in the heat of the Civil War provided protection for American companies. The US was arming Savimbi. Its companies were drilling oil in Uganda. In Angola, the Angolan army was providing protection for the American firms to drill the oil so that they will both benefit. As you can see at that point, the capital was not ideological, he just wanted a profit. And we did a lot of that in all the sectors, whether it's in the privatizations, whether in the extractive sector, there were fire sales of public assets, and also all kinds of incentives were offered. A reflection of the recent decision to consolidate the incentives regime and to try to reduce the cost to the public treasury. So this has led to really a strong dominance of foreign capital in key sectors of the economy. In the extractive sector, in high productivity services, telecom, in finance, in large-scale retail, and even manufacturing. One dimension too of the financial sector liberalization, which is worthy of note, is if you look at the rate of return for the foreign banks in Ghana, it's almost 3 times what the average in other places. So Ghana is a good place to do business. And the outflows, of course, are reflected in what the leakage. Because a large foreign investor presence in your economy with commitment to liberalize inflows and outflows in a situation where you are getting very little inflows on foreign investment, on services provision outside your economy. You can only hope that the few Ghanaians who are laboring outside through their remittances, you might be able to balance, some of the thing on your capital account. So foreign investment, whilst it has brought injection of capital, if you listen to the discussion about the extractive sector, it's always in terms of we have attracted so much investment. There is not a balance sheet of what that means. I'll come to this point in a This is I talked about the exports earlier, so that's it, yeah. The state retrenchment that I spoke about, I've indicated some of its consequences. I was having an aside with the discussant from the Bank of Ghana. Maybe I can use the Bank of Ghana to make a point. The relationship between economic policy making and the central bank in the earlier post-colonial period, where we might talk about the state seeing itself having a more developmental role, is completely different from what it is now. I remember when I was working for the PNDC, I had the privilege of speaking with Mr. Kwesi Amoakwanta a few times, because he used to be deputy governor in the Bank of Ghana and so on. And his ideas about the role of the bank, in terms of driving development, is completely different from the kind of, what I might call the myth of the independent central bank, focused on inflation targeting. Because in other countries, actually, I know that in the US, the Fed is interested in employment. In Asia, central banks have a range of interests because they see a development responsibility. Even if they are independent, what they focus on, it's a kind of condition. But I dare say that the focus on inflation is a reflection too of the grip of monetarism, in sections of economic policy in Ghana.
This is the Citi Breakfast Show, the city's biggest conversation.
It's creamy, creamy plus, delicious milk, creamy plus for you.
Creamy
Creamy Plus is a delightfully delicious option whenever and wherever the occasion calls for milk. For your quick meals on the go or quality time at the dining table, jazz up your favorite Gary soakings, mashed kinky, cereals, and all hot and cold beverages with a creamy, protein-rich, healthy option of milk. Creamy Plus evaporated milk with vegetable fat is all you need to stay on the go. Creamy Plus evaporated milk is now available in a shop near you.
For bulk purchases, please contact Les Farm Distributors at Medina Ritz Junction on 0501 682 522, or Grace has found us at Akuko Photo Dansoman on 0245 162 747.
Creamy Plus for you. Creamy Plus evaporated milk.
This message has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Bet365 is now officially available in Ghana. When you place a pre-match multi-bet on football, you go get bonus up to 70% to your winnings if your bet is successful. You can choose from markets like full-time results and both teams to score, from selected competitions including the Premier League, Champions League, and much more. Get this great offer when you visit the official site at bet365.com.gh. Over 18s only. Terms and conditions apply. Please gamble responsibly.
Easter means family time and sharing fun moments together. Whether it's traveling up the cold mountains, spending time at home, or hitting up with the boys, it's always exciting. And this season, everyone's invited to enjoy entertainment at its best with GoTV. Come on in and join Africa's biggest local stars, the world's best sports talent, the greatest international sensations, the coolest kids characters, and the hottest reality celebs. With so much on offer, it's the best deal for entertainment at its best. Obiadium. Stay connected on star 759# and make the family time great this Easter. GoTV. Love it.
The Citi Breakfast Show. Rise above the noise.
I will now discuss the two sectors which have been at the two real productive sectors which have been pillars of this commodity export dependence: agriculture and the extractive sector, as experienced, in this period, and the implications for where we are. Now, agriculture is the historic pillar of primary commodity export dependence in Ghana. It is true that when the colonialists came, they were interested in everything: the Gold Coast, Elmina. They came looking for gold. But as a settled colony, what became prominent very early on, of course, was cocoa. So, on one hand, we celebrate the Tekwashi and the humble Ghanaian peasant whose industry created cocoa. But they left us with a legacy which is problematic. But whilst the Tekwashi and others were building the cocoa industry so that they could export, to be able to expand their own economic situation and also be able to get access to the merchandise that the firms were bringing, the colonial government had its vision about the place of the Gold Coast and cocoa's place as one of the basket of raw materials to the metropolis. We celebrate the Tekwashi. Ghanaians, some of us also like to celebrate Gordon Gagisberg, as a benign colonial governor. I would argue that actually Gagisberg was probably the silk glove on the mailed fist of the colonial project. And inside that mailed fist were the people who were clear what colonialism was about. And one of those people that we tend not to know about, I think it's important to know. William Tadhope was a director of the Gold Coast Agricultural Department from 1907 to 1924. He laid the foundations of state engagement in agriculture. And I have a quote from him, which if he came from his grave today, he'd be proud that his legacy persists. In 1910, Tadhope said, in European countries and America, One of the aims of an agricultural department is to experiment, to educate, and to advise farmers, thus assisting them to produce large and good crops, which for the most part are grown for home consumption. The aims of a tropical agricultural department are similar, with this difference, that to be economically successful, those crops which produce articles for export receive the most attention. So the Colonial Agri Department set out to do this. And Tad Hope will look on his legacy and be proud that the long reach of colonial ideology remains at the center of agricultural policy in Ghana. Now, cocoa is by far the most important crop in Ghanaian agriculture, supported with an elaborate institutional mechanism from the farm to international markets, from extension support, inputs, annual raising of international credits for farm purchases. It's almost a state within a state. And there's an ideology around cocoa, which makes it almost untouchable in any discussion about agriculture. Throughout the period, there have been all kinds of efforts by different governments. I will not elaborate. I'm making it kind of generic because in totality, these efforts have not made a dent on the marginal status of other crops in the Ghanaian economy. There have been fitful attempts, there have been efforts at some non-traditional agricultural exports, fitful supports to produce for the domestic market, and there has been increased production over the past 40 years since structural adjustment due to general economic policies rather than systematic or focused interest in any agricultural value chain or crop, or value chain either in crop or livestock, despite the rising food import bill. I remember the work we did about 15 years ago with the Poultry Farmers Association, who showed that in terms of cost of production, they were competitive. They offered a vision of poultry in the agricultural value chain, from feed to school feeding, where, agricultural inputs and how the market could be developed. When it became big enough, you can get processing, because people buy one drumstick. Very few poor people will buy a whole chicken. So unless it is cut up to be competitive, it's difficult. So they had a plan. They toed and froed, and this was part of the work we did within the context of our campaign against the impact of the EU's economic partnership agreements. They did not succeed. I was reading a Dutch report yesterday on poultry in Ghana, and it makes the point, it's looking for Dutch opportunities, of course. It makes the point that today, only laying eggs, are the viable part really of Ghanaian poultry. The meat part, the broiler part is done. So the imports have got their base. This is just an example about an area. So we all know that we have very limited agro-processing, problems with credit. I was looking at the ESE's annual economic report using figures from the Bank of Ghana, and if you look at credit to agriculture over the years, the highest annual supply of credit since between 2010 and 2019 was 6.13% of total lending, and it fell as low as 3.3 in 2014. That's it. 2/3 of government spending on agriculture goes to the cocoa industry. In agriculture, including cocoa, successive Ghanaian governments have avoided dealing with the question of land relations. There's extensive land insecurity, involving migrants and even, indigenous people. Women have a huge problem in terms of access to land in agriculture. And this is very tied up really with the compact successive governments have with chieftaincy. Because across the country, chiefs have turned what are nominally communal lands into private lands that they control. So although there's a thing about registering interest, it doesn't really address this root question of land tenure reform in Ghana. The countries that Ghanaians like to point to as Asian examples for us, in all of them, apart from Singapore, which doesn't have agriculture, all of them, tenure reform specific to their context was carried out and laid the basis for security, increase in productivity, access to credits, and so on and so forth. So if we are going to crack the agrarian question in Ghana, addressing tenure relations is unavoidable. And of course, tenure relations is a political issue also. But if we don't deal with it, rural poverty and even some of the problems in the beloved cocoa industry will not go away. We also know that there are a lot of problems in cocoa itself. Because cocoa, one of the dirty secrets of the cocoa industry is that historically it's been a great vector of deforestation. Because farmers are looking for fresher soil. And as that virgin frontier has diminished, productivity from the output has dropped. So how to keep it going is a problem. And secondly, there's a lot of poverty, cost of inputs, all kinds of things. So we have a situation where really, periodically, the Ghana government has subsidized the cocoa industry. Something which, apart from episodic, fertilizer and so on, no other commodity gets. The push to get the big companies, the buyers to pay a living income differential is run into all kinds of problems because there's resistance. So here we have a crop, but we can pose the question, can we imagine a long term of this country where we are not pushing for 1 million tons in output, but we accept that cocoa is a crop from which farmers can diversify, but that we have enough of a cocoa industry that can support value addition? We need to turn our imagination to that as part of thinking about the future of the agricultural sector. Cocoa takes up 28% of the agricultural land. But as I said, most of the public attention, is to that crop. I'll move on to the extractive sector. The difference between the extractives and agriculture is, of course, agriculture is a renewing thing that people farm seasonally and so on. Extractives are non-renewable resources. They are publicly owned, vested in the state on all of us our behalf. But in practice, our extractive sector has been run as a fiefdom of the executive. And the extractive sector is a very particular example of the ways in which raw material commodity export dependence leads to a resource intensity of growth, even agriculture, because it's not, we're expanding in terms of land area. You need more resources to produce output. In mining, with very little value addition and services connected with it, of course, it is the volume and hopefully higher prices that brings the return. So that resource intensity of a non-renewable resource is a particular challenge in terms of being able to claim its economic benefits, not only to the current generation, but also future generations who are part of the owning group. And because if we add the environmental externalities, then you have to be sure that you are getting all these benefits. Now, if you look at the sector, the one thing which is striking is that when we found oil, and then oil and gas, there was excitement, even before we knew the volume. I remember President Kufuor saying that we'll become an Asian tiger, a kind of a mixed metaphor and so on. And people were looking forward to large revenues that would transform the country. That sector has become a zone of patronage and mismanagement. Okay? And there are many examples that can be given. Cosmos, which is an early example of a pioneer producer. Actually, the Cosmos deal is considered by many in the industry to be the worst the country has signed. If you compare it to the Tallow deal, which is in the same field, it was calculated that the revenue benefits to the country from the Tallow deal was going to be 4 billion more than the Cosmos deal. Okay. There were some people who had a 2.5% carried interest in the Cosmos deal who benefited. Some people claim that there are some politically connected people who are beneficiaries of this. I have no evidence to support it, but there's a strong public perception to that effect.
Dr. Graham on the need for restructuring the national economy, the need for a paradigm shift, Thursday at the University of Ghana City Conference Center under the aegis of the UG at 75. So those were some highlights from that lecture. Later in the week, we'll bring you more. Thanks for listening to today's edition of the Citi Breakfast Show. My name is Bernard Avle. I had Godfred, Akoto, Boafo, and Nathan Kwa with me. We'll be back with more tomorrow. Coming up next is Brunch in the City. Before that, City News at 10. Kalekuda.